I'm vengeance.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 136 of the Super Civil Servants Podcast. I think I startled Katie there. Jumped a little bit whenever I said that. My name is Greg, the Bat Daddy 52, and we are back this week, folks. We got a special show for you. We are doing a mashup show because we like Top Gun. Slice of Film likes Top Gun. Let's talk some Top Gun. So we're going to start with that tonight and get some Top Gun going. We have Katie from Slice of Film. Co-hosts Ross and Sarah. I mean, Katie, you're a co-host as well, but Ross and Sarah with us as well. So everybody Top Gunned up, and I'm ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand the mic over to Katie. Let her get her stuff going, and then we'll talk about Top Gun.
All right, y'all. We've got Greg, we've got Sarah, we've got Ross here, all SCS co-hosts. Sarah is a Slice of Film co-host, so let's just go ahead and get it started. I will try to roll through this paperwork super quick. But hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Slice of Film, where today we are taking a slice out of Top Gun. I'm your host, as always, Katie Rinchler, and joining me we have Greg, Ross, and Sarah. Before we say hello to everyone and get everyone involved in the conversation, I'm going to go ahead and hit the podcast paperwork side of things. First things first, Slice Film is a part of the Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network. We have 8 shows, 7 days a week. Sundays, once a month, we have World's Finest True Believers with Chris. On Mondays, every other week, you've got Slice Film 1 week, and Ranger Alliance the next. Tuesdays, you've got DC Alliance. Wednesdays, you've got Superhero Discussions. Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance. Fridays is Marvel Alliance. And every other Saturday is a walk through the multiverse. On the 3 shows that do live streams are Marvel Alliance, DC Alliance, and Star Wars Alliance. DC goes live on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Star Wars Alliance goes live on Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Marvel Alliance goes live on Thursdays at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And those 3 shows do also have their own solo feeds. The Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network does have a Patreon where we have 2 tiers. $1 helps keep the film reels running around here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that may drop. If you'd like to support us, there are 3 ways to do it. One way is to listen to the ads on the podcast. Yes, we are an ad-supported network. Sarah or I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud they are, so that warning's just to help you prepare those volume levels. We do appreciate you listening to the ads, as they do help support the podcast and the network as a whole. The oh my gosh, the $5 tier on Patreon. I got lost, y'all. I'm sorry. The $5 tier, ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that may drop. So you can go check us out there if you want ad-free episodes or any exclusive episodes. I know there have been several done by members of the GUA. I have a couple Star Wars ones on. Travis has a lot of top 5s. And I know the Marvel Alliance guys are doing a Marvel movie walkthrough. So those are some of the ones that you can go check out. The third way to support us is by rating and reviewing on your favorite podcatcher of choice. It helps put the network or the individual podcast feeds into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. And with that, y'all, my famous spoiler warning for an old movie. If you have not seen this movie, feel free to come back, go watch it. Come back, because what are you doing? Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, lots of great people in this movie, so you should go check it out. But with that, Sarah, what is Top Gun?
Sorry, I had to mute you guys for a minute because my dogs act like they were about to take somebody out. I'm like, what are you about to do? Anyway, I feel the need for speed. Okay. No, I got that out of the way, so that's cool. So I got my aviators, got my white t-shirt. Yes. I want to preface this by saying the kids just watched this last weekend because they're super excited about seeing Maverick, which, this is what we're working towards. And I'm sitting there, and my daughter's sitting beside me. She's just turned 9 years old. And I realized I was basically her age when this movie was released. So do the math on that. Yeah. So
1986, just for the people
yes,
who were about to go look it up.
So just do the math on that. The thing about that is, I remember this movie also being like the first VHS my dad rented and we watched on our VHS player. So I always kidded with my daughter because there's like, the one scene, we'll get to it, but it's the when you hear Berlin with every breath you take, or take my breath away. I was like completely traumatized by that because, like I said, I'm this small kid and I'm like, it did not fail. When my kids saw it, I wish you guys had seen their reaction because it was absolutely classic. Yes. But I have always, the music, Kenny Loggins is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
I will fight you if you say otherwise. And it has one of the best themes. I even learned how to play that on piano.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those things. Even now, I can still pick it out, and it's just one of those movies where you have, and some of the guys I didn't even realize the cast because I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, oh, that's so and so and so and so and so and so. You got Val Kilmer. You've got obviously Tom Cruise. You've got oh Lord, now it's like I can't even think of the names, but all these guys, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I forgot they were even in this movie. It was fantastic. Even Meg Ryan, we were watching that, and Brian, it was like, he's like, I forgot she was in it. I was like, oh yeah, dude, she's right there, because she has an epic line as well. So this is one of those movies where, to me, it's an absolute classic. It is up there with Dirty Dancing. It's like one of those movies. If it's on, I'm going to watch it. I don't care, regardless. And now, because like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing Maverick. I'm really looking forward to see. But Top Gun to me is a movie, and Greg, you be quiet because I know what your thoughts are. It's one of those movies where I feel like it has aged super well because you can still watch it and it will still hit you. You can still enjoy it. It's still, I can still remember everybody coming in with, bomber jackets and, wearing the aviators and all this kind of stuff. So it's really one of those nostalgic movies that I think over time it has aged well. Absolutely. So I will open the floor to everyone else. Ross, what do you think, my friend?
Yes.
I do not remember the first time I saw this movie, but as someone who has worn my fair share of flight suits and bomber jackets, I was in the Air Force, so the joke constantly was, oh, look, here comes Top Gun. And everyone's like, they're the Navy, you idiots. And so it was constantly the battle back and forth between who was better and what they were doing. And I'm like, yeah, but number one, a movie. Number two, Tom Cruise. So he already made it crazy because I feel like that was maybe not the beginning, but definitely on the upswing of his adrenaline junkiness that he needed. Jester's dead is a phrase that I have said more times than I could ever count in my life. Everything, Greg knows back in the AOL screen name days, I was Iceman, and it stuck with for ever. And so, still to this day, somewhere I have my Iceman shirt. It's been a week. I was trying to find my Top Gun stuff.
All right, Ross, you got a new name, my friend. I did not know about that, so I got you now.
Oh, I call him Iceman. Yeah, that's yeah.
It's these days it's Cool Breeze, but Iceman still works. But no, the movie itself was, it is a classic. If you take out the love scene, everything else about this movie is adrenaline. I'm not saying that you have to take it out. I'm just saying that if you were, everything else about this movie is just a good, solid rush. It's a bunch of, sausage heads being sausage heads.
I know, Ross, the first time I saw this movie, I think I was maybe 8 or 9. And all I remember from the first time I saw this was my mom going, no, you can't watch this. Can we fast forward? Because it was on TV and you couldn't fast forward at the time.
Yeah.
So it's just like, no.
The best part is the I don't remember who made it, but it was the parody for the movie, parody for that scene, and it was like, they're literally like making breakfast on her stomach and like all the other stuff, and I'm like,
That was Hot Shots.
Is it Hot Shots? Yes.
Yes, Charlie Sheen. Yes,
that's
absolutely.
all in
Another
there.
great movie.
Well, and that's the funny thing about it, because I was like picked on my daughter. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so traumatized, because it's like, even now when I hear that song on the radio, I'm just like, I think of that. And now seeing it again, I'm like, it's not that bad. And my daughter's like, I want to be traumatized. I'm like,
It's really not that bad.
Growing up
It's
in a generation
you're
of
like,
Kardashian
like I said,
love tapes.
but when you're like 8, 9, 10 years old, you're just like, even my son, I mean, he's about to be 12 next week, and he's like, they're touching tongues. I'm like, oh boy, you got a long ways to go.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what's just so interesting about it, because my son was like, oh my god, this movie is so awesome, and for the age, and when I told him the age, he's like, no way. But then again, I'm like, look at what Tom Cruise is wearing. I mean, the white t-shirts with, he had the leather belt with the little silver tip on the end of, I'm like, seriously? I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, you see that out west, I think right now. That's about right. No, I think the only thing that's aged is obviously the technology that it was filmed with. I think they've gone back and tried to like bring it back to life a couple times, but I got it on DVD, and you can definitely tell, like, it's an older film based on the quality, but I think it's still very much alive. And
so what platform did you say you watched it on DVD?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just standard DVD. It wasn't Blu-ray. It was just standard DVD.
I'm cheap.
Oh, I mean, and that's perfectly fine, because really, if you like I said, I saw this on VHS, back in the day. So I watched it on Netflix. Ross, how did you see it? What platform?
Currently?
I mean,
oh shoot, I don't even remember.
Oh, you haven't watched it recently. So
well, I watched it like in the past few months. I mean, not too super long.
But that's what I'm saying. I was just curious, like, what platform everybody had watched it on, because if you see it DVD, I mean, it's going to be a little clearer than VHS, but it's still, you still kind of get the thing. It'd be a different story, watching on, like, I don't think I could watch it on Blu-ray. It might be too sharp.
So C3 Panther says, I think a lot of it was real stuff. They say the maneuvers are realistic. Yeah, most of the flight stuff is actually physical effects, and not just like CGI or animated. Like, it's all legit.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think I was looking on the Wikipedia, and actually in the filming process, they actually lost an aerobatic pilot named Art Scholl, who radioed in, I have a problem, and was spinning, and he was unable to recover from the spin and crashed his Pitt Special biplane into the Pacific Ocean off the Southern California coast, and his body nor the aircraft were recovered, leaving the official cause of the accident unknown. So,
oh, wow. Kind of like makes it really feel like, you lost Goose, because that was, that's a reality of a lot of these things, a lot of these pilots. I mean, it's things happen.
We're going to come back to that Goose scene whenever we talk about this movie, because I have something specifically about the next movie that's interconnecting that I want to ask y'all about, just because you mentioned that scene. But can I say just my overall, because real quick, I have been a huge defender of Iron Eagle since we started talking about this whole thing. Okay.
Didn't have time, Greg. I wanted to. I promise. I wanted to.
We're gonna have to do a slice of film of it. Okay. Listen, I have not seen this movie in 25 years. Okay. Now, growing up, the planes they fly in this movie is the Cessnas, the Tomahawks, the biplane, like all this stuff. My stepfather was a pilot, and he had those planes. So like I actually been in those planes, got to fly. So I had a little more of a connection with this movie that way. Now that I'm older, I've gone back and I watched Top Gun on Wednesday, and then Iron Eagle last night. I still love Iron Eagle. but I cannot say anymore that it is better than Top Gun. I really can't after rewatching it. Iron Eagle is the kids version of Top Gun.
Okay.
It is the 1980s Goonies. It's Grease without the music and add airplanes. The effects are not nearly as good. And now that I'm older and I look at that earlier, so I have to come out and say that because I've been saying for weeks and weeks now that it's better. It's still a fantastic movie, and I love it. It gets me in all the feel-good spots. But Top Gun is an overall better movie. I'm going to give you that. Now, that being said, y'all are talking about that love scene. My wife loves Top Gun. So when I told her we had to watch it for the review, she's like, oh, no problem. Turn it right on. Exactly where to go for it. I was like, okay, cool. She said the same thing about when she was younger, and she watched that love scene, about how it kind of traumatized her because it's weird. It's really weird.
Dude, the whole love story aspect is just straight.
It's weird for the movie.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird for the movie. I agree with Ross. You can take that kind of out of it and still have a great movie. It doesn't have to, but you can take that completely out, and it's still a great movie. You know.
It was just
So, Greg, what platform did you watch it on?
Netflix, I believe.
Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wherever it was free.
Because Mark, he said he saw it on Paramount Plus himself and wanted to point out that there appear to be major color differences between home releases.
Really?
So, the
That's where I
old
watched
DVD and Blu-ray lean more towards blue. The 3D Blu-ray and some different streaming platforms, particularly Netflix, lean more towards a yellow tone. And then the 4K and Paramount Plus versions lean towards orange. And he noticed this more because of the sunset scenes. And when he rewatched it this last time, because he was supposed to join us, he did not remember the sunset scenes to be as vivid as what he saw then. So I thought that was an interesting point, especially towards like the remixing them to make it look better in a newer age with all the technology we have now. So
that's why I'm so excited about seeing Maverick, because I just want to see, taking a movie that was made, Lord, what, 30 years ago?
Almost.
1986, so almost 30 years.
I can't even think about that. But now, and you're taking it now and using, the new, new technology. I'm super stoked on that, because even an 86 film, regardless of, what platform you watch it on, is still pretty damn sweet.
Yeah. And it's 26 years old in one day, because it was released in New York City. That was its official premiere May 12th. And then it had a national release May 16th. So it's 26 years old. So, and it had a budget of $15 million.
Tom Cruise hasn't aged a day.
I know.
26 years old? Shouldn't it be
36?
36.
Oh my gosh, 36.
I was about to say, because it was 2 years after I was born, and I'm 37. So I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, 36. I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long day. I can't count, apparently.
Well, math is definitely not my strong suit. So that's why I was questioning myself.
Well, I was 8 when it was released. I was 8.
I was -9.
I love you all, but God, y'all are so old. I don't care. I own it. I own it. I'm good. I'm good.
Wrong with it.
But a budget of $15 million in the 80s, and it had a box office run of $357 million. So that's pretty impressive, to just make that amount of return. I want to say that's actually pretty high as well for a 1986 movie.
Well, I know nowadays, don't they kind of just say that you start making money after you double the budget?
Yeah, because of the
thing.
marketing.
So if they double their budget at 30 million, they end up making 208. That's really successful.
Yeah.
Well, they also kind of limited it a little bit, because they don't have to. If you work with the military, they fly all those missions anyway. So really, all you have to do is just get some sort of plan together. That's why they fly the other planes, the slower planes and everything else, because it adds to the actual shooting of it. As these planes come in fast, another one's just sitting right here, just. So you bring down that budget.
There you go. Tony says he wants an unrealistic. What is unrealistic about teenagers borrowing fighter planes and busting their dad out of a Libyan military prison? That's
Is that basically what
that's
Iron Eagle?
Iron Eagle. Yeah, that's the plot for Iron Eagle.
Iron
Spoilers.
Eagle is what is it? It's Red Dawn in the Air.
But how many didn't they have like sequels? How many sequels did they have?
4. And they were even brave enough to kill the main character from the first movie off in the first 5 minutes of the second movie. How you like
Thanks,
that?
Greg. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
You know. I don't. Well, okay. Let's talk about some scenes.
I'm sorry, we SCS'd it a little bit. I apologize.
I know,
No,
this
you're
is
good
really-
because they actually did have help from the Navy in doing this. The Navy made several aircraft F-14s available, and
The trainers, the 2-seaters.
the trainers, yeah. So all of that was made available, and they even reworked some of the plot sequences. They reworked some of that so that they would be more approved by the Navy. Like originally, originally Charlie was supposed to be a member of the military, and so they moved her out to because of the Navy's policy to prevent fraternization between officers and enlisted officers.
Mhm.
So
Don't
stuff
wanna
like that,
break
the
those
Navy had. What'd you say, Ross?
Don't want to break those laws.
Uh-huh.
That'll put you in sore butt prison.
So Sarah, what is the first thing you want to talk about?
The only thing, because out of I'm taking out the love scene because we'll probably talk about that, but I'm kind of fast forwarding to the end of the film because they have graduation and then they're like, we have this crisis, we have to handle this, whatever. Okay, they handle it. Okay. Do you honestly, like when you come back in, do you have like a cheering section, that kind of thing? Because everybody's like, yay! I'm like Brian, I was like, is this for real? I'm like, it's great camaraderie. It's great to say, yeah, we beat the bad guy. Yeah, everything's great. But I'm like, are you literally going to do that on the carrier?
Nope.
I had this argument with my mom today and my mom's not going to listen to this. So, but she absolutely hates women in power and when women show any emotion. And I'm going to connect this, I promise. But like somebody on the Clemson softball team hit a home run the other day and she was like, bat flip, like she shot that thing almost 400 feet, y'all. I'm telling you.
Mhm.
Nice.
It was pretty far for a softball home run. And my mom's like, I hate her. I can't believe she'd show this much like emotion, like so selfish and stuff. And I'm like, sometimes you just gotta hype yourself up and like connect and be able to like draw those connections in and while also not getting yourself down. So you take what wins you can get is basically my point. I was never military. I did JROTC, so I don't know for certain. Ross, did you have any experience?
With dealing with which part exactly? Just being
Celebrating.
happy.
Well,
after a mission.
my whole point is, okay, it's like these guys went in, they had a mission, that they had an objective, they basically met the objective, did what they needed to do. But I'm like, are you really gonna have a cheering? It's like all the guys, like all the crew on the carrier, are they really gonna be like, when you land your plane and you like park it, are they gonna be like, yeah, that's great, yeah, we did this, And I mean, I get it because you do have like, with movies, you do take certain liberties. I get that.
Mhm.
But I'm like, this was like super over the top. I don't think I really thought about that, but previously, because I mean, obviously I was a lot younger when I watched this, but I was just like, really? Is that what they actually do? I mean, I think it's for movie wise to like tell the story. I think it was, I think it kind of like put that punctuation mark on it. But, I'm just like, really? Is this really happens?
The 80s were a different
over the
time.
top.
The 80s, you could do certain things.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
I was in the military, so we never cheered for anything. We cheered when we got to go home. And the way that we did that was we all dispersed. Like, all of a sudden it was quiet and we were all gone. But the rules were so lax. But even then, for aircraft carriers, I mean, you can't do that stuff around live airplanes. Um, I mean, even if the plane is coming in, and, they won the battle. Uh, I mean, there are so many rules. Like, you can't be on a flight deck. I mean,
Yeah.
they call them Skittles now because the people that are on the flight deck all have to wear like the certain color gear and stuff. So all the reflective stuff. Um, but it's so funny because you know you, you're made to watch the videos where like people get sucked through engines or like tires explode. Like that stuff's pounded into your head. Like nowadays, that stuff doesn't fly. But in the '80s, it could have. I
Right.
doubt it on an aircraft carrier, but
that's what I'm saying. It's like, you had this movie, and because I can remember, like little, the boys that I was friends with and whatnot, like, yeah, I'm going to go to the military, I'm going to be a fighter pilot, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to, like, yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah, you're going to play volleyball in jeans too? Is that what you're about to do? Yeah. So, it's like, it's still a typical, I guess you would say kind of like a typical 80s movie because it is over the top. But I don't know. That's just one of the scenes where I just question it kind of crazily. Like, this is the over the top, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like with the love scene. You're just like, oh, I've fallen for you. I'm like, lady, you hadn't had enough time to even know who this dude is. What are you talking about?
Because they're specific with referencing, hey, this school is 5 weeks. That's it.
Exactly. And she already made the statement, like he made this overture, in the bar, which that scene is that is pimp. I mean, I don't even know what I would say even to somebody. If the dude did that to me, I'd just be like, oh my God, that was.
What, followed you in the women's bathroom? You would?
Well, prior to that, if you follow me in the bathroom, like,
gotcha.
dude, you might not want, no, that's not a good idea. But it's just, and the Everly Brothers, I mean, that's like a song that I think it's Everly Brothers, isn't it? I don't know.
Hi, Nathan.
But
I have the power to show these things.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Nathan. But I don't know, because that's another scene to me that's like super powerful too. It's
because everyone gets involved with it. I mean, like, I have been in places where that has happened.
Have you?
Not so much to like pick up a girl, but like where like spontaneous, like, like
awesome.
When you're all in the suck together, after a while, you all like just embrace it, and you have those moments.
Oh, love you, Tony. Love you, Tony. But no, I mean, there's
Greg, you're muted.
Sorry. Good.
There's just so many scenes in this movie that are, for me, that are like so classic, like Negative Ghost Rider.
Oh, I mean, the pattern is full. Ghost Rider used to be the name of my plane. Said it all the time too.
The finger. Yeah, stuff like that. There's all kinds. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yep. It's like, thank you, Goose. We understand.
You said that earlier. Yeah.
So I mean, there's just so many like iconic moments in this movie that you don't really realize that has like exploded or like trickled into like pop culture. It's just, I mean, even now, I try to do the hand slap with the kids. My kids are looking like, what the hell? I'm like, just do it. You'll understand later. Just do it. It's cool. So yeah, it's yeah.
Checks your body can't cash. That's why I said that one time when I wasn't supposed to say it.
Yeah.
Got hit in the face.
So, are we just talking? We can just talk about a scene because
go ahead. Just free for all.
I have one that can tie into the next movie coming up, just from the preview that I saw. And going to see Doctor Strange is okay. So they go into a flat spin, right? We'll talk about Goose's death. They go into a flat spin, and I'm assuming that's why there was a malfunction with the canopy and he hit. But either way, it was a malfunction with the canopy, right? In the preview for the next movie, his son, which you got to figure, you've also got to talk about timeline with this because it's kind of bothering me. But his son, is like mad at Maverick, and he's like, "My dad never trusted you, and I won't either." And I'm like, actually, your dad trusted him probably more than anybody else, and it was absolutely not his fault by any means that anything happens. So I'm wondering how they're going to write that in to the story. Like, I hope it's not they don't CW it and drag that story out. You know?
I've seen so many great reviews
Yes.
for Top Gun Maverick
Mhm.
right now. It's got a 96% currently on Rotten Tomatoes. We're recording this on Friday the 13th of May. So I was born on Friday the 13th. So
Oh, I hate you. I've got 13th birthday, so I have like very sporadic Friday 13th birthdays. So yay.
Well, I don't think that's something that'll ruin the movie, because I think the movie's gonna be great. I mean, Top Gun was great. It's just something I saw and I was like, I wonder what they're gonna do with that. And then I also wonder about the timeline, because
Yeah, my question is, how old is his son?
what's the age?
Because-
Yeah,
Not
Be
unless
careful.
she had another one.
but
I'm gonna go
how
ahead
would
and
she
tell
have
you, be
another
careful.
one of Goose's baby?
She
You know?
said, "Goose, take me to bed or lose me forever."
Maybe. I don't know.
we do know. I thought we knew. I thought this was like the kid from
Because-
this movie.
Well,
But
because
he
the kid
was
from this
like-
movie is like
like
5 or 6.
5, yeah.
Yeah, I would say. So if you're talking about 35 years,
He's
his
like
kid
in
would
his
be in his
40s.
40s. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm wondering. I'm like, wait
Yeah.
a second.
But
well, okay, so it
Tom
says
Cruise, I mean, you can't do 30 plus years in service and still sit there at that role.
So is this movie going to be in a different
Well,
timeline? Is what I'm. Or
so
not
the
different
premise-
timeline, different year.
the premise says on Wikipedia. I almost said Wikipedia for Star Wars. No, this is
Sorry,
Wikipedia.
not-
Test pilot Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell has purposely dodged an advancement in rank after 36 years of service,
Okay.
so that he
It's
can stay
impossible.
flying. I know it's
Yeah.
it's completely impossible, but
Yeah.
obviously
not unless.
Unless you're Tom Cruise.
Well, not unless she, Goose impregnated her and she had a child
Oh.
after his death.
Hey, we can make that part work as much as you want to, but the Tom Cruise dodge and rank part does not work whatsoever. 110%.
You don't dodge rank. You either get promoted or you go. Bye bye.
Yeah, you get kicked out. Like time and grade is a real thing.
So what they're saying is he's been an instructor there this whole time for 36 years.
He found something to do,
Yeah.
you know.
And
I-
he's
so
not
that would-
necessarily an instructor there. He's a test pilot, so he tests other
Yeah, that's
planes.
right. Because there's
okay.
the NASA scenes, right, where he's wearing the blue suit, and
Yeah.
I think we get plenty of that. Which, Sarah popped out, but I was going to ask, in the Doctor Strange 4DX, they give you the clip of Top Gun Maverick in with the chair moving and everything like that too. And so I was wondering if she actually experienced that, because I don't know if you could do a whole movie of straight up flying around in the seats doing, just bouncing back and forth as you're trying to watch it, because that's just a little too much sensory overload.
Yeah. Oh, I think Sarah, you did say you are seeing 40X, I believe.
Yes, we are. That's the only
Did
way I
you-
can. That's the only way I can. Claire will go see it. She's like, I
Did you
didn't
see
really
the,
see
the
it.
extended preview or whatever it is they had that was in front of Doctor Strange?
I don't. We saw the preview, but
I didn't
they,
see
they
one.
didn't do the They didn't do the seats.
This was like a whole solid 5-minute clip of like
Oh, I'm
Wow.
fully waiting for just to be thrown out of the seat. I'm
it's
totally
too
waiting
much.
for it.
Too much. You need seatbelts for that thing.
I didn't see
Look,
that 5 minutes.
Doctor Strange was pretty. That knocked you around pretty good too. So I mean, I'm like, bring it on.
I think 40X will make me nauseous. So
It's-
no.
it
it's almost
probably
too
would
much.
because it
I wanna
is
try it.
pretty.
I want to try it.
Try 40X plus 3D. That is awesome.
3D already makes me nauseous, so no thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
special. I know y'all. Shut up.
yeah,
All right. So is there any other scenes maybe that weren't y'all's favorites, or we ready to talk about like scenes that you enjoyed or like scenes you want to like talk about?
I think I'm ready to go into like the ones that I like really liked, because we got to talk about Val Kilmer, Iceman,
Mm-hmm.
because he was one of those characters I remember that I'm like, God, he's such an asshole. God, he's such an asshole. And then it's like, he's so good. He can be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when he came into Top Gun, it was like, I'm automatically the first. I'm automatically number one. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So to see his evolution to where like, yeah, you can be my wingman anytime. No, you can be mine. That it's like the male ego in this movie. It's like I love it. I mean I shouldn't, but I absolutely love it because I'm like, this is such a dude movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand it. I get it because there's like such an adrenaline rush, and you can't you can't help but having like a testosterone rush too. So I mean, I think it kind of dives into like my inner dude. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
So the only Val Kilmer movies I've seen is Batman Forever and then this one. That's it.
Wow, you've never seen A Ghost in the Darkness?
You need to see. Is it Real Genius? That was like one of his first ones. It's like that's an old one.
I remember like I remember Jackal. I remember what was the he did that movie with Robert Downey that was really good. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where he played the gay dude. It was really good. Really good.
Well, if you ever get the opportunity to watch was it his documentary?
Yeah. Nathan, I think I said that when we talked about Batman Forever on Slice of Film. So don't Katie me. Don't Katie me. And I take that back, y'all. I am going to go see Top Gun Maverick in RPX, but it's because it's a Tuesday showing.
What's RPX?
It is the Regal version of like IMAX.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm going to see it if you don't know
in RPX so that I can see it early.
Yes, Nathan, Ghost in the Darkness is so good. Yes, that is one I highly recommend for you, Katie.
Okay. All right, Dan.
I think I have it on DVD. I'll send it to you. Okay, so we're talking about scenes that we loved. I loved all the action in this movie as far as especially now. Like I said, I really do love Iron Eagle, but after watching those two movies back to back, the flying scenes in this movie are so much better than Iron Eagle. And I think that's really what sets it apart. But just the overall action scenes in this movie are great. I do love how technology in any movie you're in works for the viewer. Like the interface for inner technology always works for the viewer to be able to totally understand what's going on when it's not like that in real life with a lot of things. So, but that was one thing I really, really enjoyed was all of just about every plane scene in this movie.
Yeah. I grew up wanting to be a fighter pilot. Of course, my eyesight's too bad to do it. But I absolutely love the flying scenes. They're so good. And I'm really impressed that Tom Cruise is actually able to get behind some of the planes and do some of the stuff because that takes a shit ton of training. So I have huge amounts of respect for Tom Cruise because he does a lot of his own stunts.
Which in the real world, he wouldn't be allowed to because he doesn't meet the height requirement. I don't mean that in a mean way. I did not like the scene where they put him back in the seat so fast after Goose's death.
Yeah, that was a little too quick.
That's my real big downer for this.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm trying to think.
And like maybe it's a little more realistic because it's the 80s and maybe mental health wasn't taken into consideration as much back then. But it's still they literally probably put him back in this seat probably like 3 days later. So
well, and another thing too is like Tom Skerritt's character, he was like, I flew with your old man. And, for him to walk in and say, hey, man, he's like, you need to get over this. You need to like toughen up. You need to just move on. That scene right there to me, it's like this day and age, like you're saying, like with mental health, I'm like, dude, that's a lot to ask because this Goose was like his freaking brother. I mean, it was like his family. It's not like it's, you just have this guy that's like, second seat, like just sits behind you. I mean, they were like brothers. And then also it's like, with Cougar, he was the one like initially. And yeah, Nathan, I agree with you. 80s was all about man up. I get that. Because there's been other movies where, they had like the same thing. But like, with Cougar, it was like it shook him up. And then he looks down and, you see like a photo of his, wife and kid. And especially when he comes in and he's like, man, he's like, I haven't even seen my kid, and all this. It was interesting that it did like touch on the mental health issue aspect of it. But, like you said, it was, the 80s, it was like, like Nathan said, it's like you man up. It's like, hey, you handle what you signed up to do this, despite whatever else. It's like you gotta have this mental block. You just gotta handle it. And I mean, that's a lot to take in. So, now watching it, now in, the 2020s, it's a lot different because, you take more of like the mental health aspect into consideration because I mean, there's a lot going on. You're asking
Sneaky stand down is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking guys to do a lot. I mean, it's that's and the thing about it is like think about the age of these guys too. I mean, these are not like guys. I always look at these guys like they were like in their like maybe early 20s.
I would probably say mid to early 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Mid to late
like,
at that. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a lieutenant, so.
Yes, I mean, it's not like these guys are like in their 30s and like had all this other like life experience. It's almost like they came like out of school straight into the military. They just. I mean, I know you and Ross and Greg. I know you guys can speak on this a little more so than I can, but I mean, I know it's generalizations, but it really speaks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Nathan, stop
Put
it!
it up there.
Stop it! Stop it!
Just for a moment, since I can't voice the opinion. Look, so I do notice like the we were talking about how manly this movie was, and like Nathan's even talking about the man up thing. I think that is just it is a thing of the 80s. Because think about it, we had the Rockies and Rambos and Terminators and He-Mans and Superman, like all this stuff, this man up, tough man stuff coming out. So I think that was like a victim of the time. Not victim. There's nothing wrong with it. It was a great movie, but just its tone is because of what it was. It's one of those movies you can definitely tell, not even by the quality, that it's from a different era.
Well, like I'm a massive like Formula One fan, right? And so now those cars cost so much more money than they used to in the 80s. But guys in the 80s would, straight up get out of the car, fight the dude who like knocked them off track, and then like push their car wherever it needed to be. Like if they got into a wreck, if anything happened, like a dude raced with a fractured wrist, and if you know anything about racing, you need your wrists just like you need your ankles, right? And so at the end of the day, he like placed like in the top 3 for like racing with a fractured wrist. That was how they did things. Don't tell me I can't do it. It was always, I'm gonna do it. Same thing now for planes. They cost a lot more money. And not to mention the pipeline of like trying to put someone through all of that training to get to that point where they could even make it to like the creme de la creme of Top Gun. You're still putting a lot into the people and the actual devices that they have to come in contact with. And so really all of that now it's a real big numbers game. There's been enough like studies and everything, but it's a numbers game too. Is it worth it? What are the odds? Like, is it worth saying, get out there and do your best, or we can't allow you to go out there because you're unfit for duty or whatever the case may be. But still,
bring the multi-million-dollar machine back.
Yeah.
Well, and that was one of the things that was interesting too, because like when Charlie made the statement that you're flying multi-million-dollar plane, I'm thinking, man, it's like even then they're like putting the dollar amount of these planes over these guys' lives. Maybe it's just like an evolution of the time, because I'm just like, that was just crazy to me. To me, that felt like an insensitive type comment. But then again, I understand because you have like this amount of money you're, putting into it. But then I'm like, well, you're saying that this guy's life is not as much as this, amount of money that goes in the plane.
At the end of the day, a person in the military is worth $400,000.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, because to me, I just feel like it's just, but. Like I said, that's just an evolution of time.
Yeah.
Just the evolution of time, because now you're like, like with my kids, I'm thinking like, when they drive, if like they're in an accident, it's like, to me, their lives are more important than the amount of like the value of the vehicle or, that kind of thing. But then again, I'm not dealing with government money either.
Yeah. No. Insurance is not the first thing you're thinking about when you get into an accident. You're like, no, the kid needs to survive. That's the number one priority.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like I said, and I've got to look at things a lot differently now too, because like in 86 or 87, 88, whenever I saw this movie the first time, I wasn't a parent. Now that I have like two littles, it's like I look at things a lot differently now because there's a lot of movies that I can watch where I'm like, yeah, whatever. Now it's like since I have kids, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like just like a wreck because I'm like, oh my god, what's my kid? It's just like I said, it's just the evolution of times.
I know.
You guys were talking about the age of these pilots. That was something I was thinking about too. There used to be. I used to do a bunch of like sport track racing stuff before I got into the military, and the phrase always was, if the person is single, and especially if they're younger, they're going to take more chances. The moment that they like get into a relationship and start having kids, they start slowing down and their lap times start to reflect it. Well, in the military, it was kind of the same way. When you were a pilot, if you were trying to truly pipeline, then you didn't have that. Don't take it the wrong way. You don't have that baggage in your brain. You don't have something to think about constantly. That's why, the scenes are real big when they're looking at the pictures in their cockpits. Like, that's a real big thing for those people to think about.
And I think that's why you get the opening scene with Cougar, I think, is the guy, where he's like, this is the first time they're really coming face to face with an enemy fighter plane, and he's having to come to reckon with, okay, wait, all these years I was like fine and never had to face anyone, but now I'm looking down the face of a barrel, and
like shit just got real.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that open scene because that was the one thing I wanted to ask you about. Like, I do have a question. When Maverick goes to this school, like the only reason he goes is because of that situation. He goes back, saves Cougar, and Cougar kind of has a mental meltdown, reasonably so, and can't go to the thing or the 5-week training program.
Yeah.
So it bumps Maverick and Goose up. Well, when Maverick and Goose get there, they're obviously like number 2, and this is the top 1% of the country. So they were second in line to even go, but when they go there, they're like instantly like the second best, people of everybody there. So I'm like, why were they not first in line to go anyway?
Because of Maverick's actions,
his attitude,
previously, and attitude. So, and in the conversation with Goose, Maverick, and the commander guy, the commander's
Can't
like,
buzz the tower.
Yeah, because he keeps doing stupid shit. So,
yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I don't know.
Because Maverick, he was like one of those. He didn't fly safe. It's like Iceman said. He's like you're too much of a loose cannon.
Wild card.
Well, they display that exactly what Ross is talking about the difference in pilots who have families and don't, by pairing him up with Goose, who has a family, who is like that voice of reason. Like, hey, dude, I know you're a hot shot and you're single and doing this, but, and I think he even mentions that in the movie at one point in time. I got a family to think about and stuff like that. So,
but another thing that's so interesting too is because it's like you have Iceman. He's like, like the top dude going through it. But when he's actually put under pressure, he flaked. He was like, oh, I can't. So he like pulled up. And then Maverick came in and it's like he handled it. And I'm thinking,
because they're very specific at the beginning of the movie that Maverick and Cougar were the first pilots to actually face MiGs. And that's why Charlie was so inquisitive, because she was like, I want to know what the MiG looked like. So,
especially with the inverted, with the Polaroid. Which my kids love that because they're like, I'm like, no, you can't do that. No.
Trying to think. Talk about the open scene.
One of the things that bugged me, I guess, and this is just knowing the significance of the dog tags, but at the end, Maverick throws Goose's dog tags overboard, and I'm like, does his wife not deserve those? Does his kid not deserve those? Like, why are you throwing them
the same thing? They're like, why did they do that? I'm like, well, maybe he asked them to.
Maybe if he asked him to, but I would have liked if like Meg Ryan could have handed them to him and gone, he wanted you to have these or whatever.
Well, there's a lot of assumptions in this movie. Like I said, it's like with the relationship between Maverick and Charlie. There's a lot of assumptions there because apparently there's some shit we saw that happened that, like, how did this relationship evolve to the point of? I don't get that, but You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
it's like you seem like you're here, like with the scene of like, you know, singing and trying to like, you know, hit on her, that kind of thing. And then next thing you know, it's like, all right, well, I want to know more about, you know, the MIG, you know, that kind of thing. Then next thing you know, you're like, oh, I've fallen for you. Like, who
Let's
shows up
get it
somebody's
on.
house and is like, I'm gonna go take a shower? The hell you are? Who are you?
Especially when you're fucking late.
I know, right? I'm like, you were like just playing volleyball in your jeans. And it's like hot as shit, and and then you put your damn shirt on and your bombers.
Well,
What is wrong with you?
it's 2 dick moves in a row because 1, the shower at the house, and 2, he ditched all his boys like in the middle of playing a game. He's like, I gotta go, y'all. Later. I'm out.
If you're gonna be late, then just be late and finish the game.
Right.
But if you're going to ditch everybody in the middle of the game, then ditch before you're going to be late.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if somebody shut at my house, like, you're late, we're about to have dinner, we're like, oh, we're gonna take a shower.
Yeah.
What?
She didn't seem to care. She's like, all right, cool.
You gonna use my soap?
No,
No, you're not.
Don't use my loofah. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
'Cause
I think that's just an 80s movie. That was
Yeah.
just apparently there was like a lot of inferred things that
because she doesn't let him go take a shower at first. Because he goes, I'm gonna go take a shower while you finish up in here.
she's like,
And she's like, no, you're not.
I'm about to eat. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
No,
So they
that's-
eat and they talk, and then he gets up and walks away, and she's like, where are you going? And he's like, I'm gonna go take a shower. And then she lets him go take a shower.
Okay. That's still. You know, you brought up the thing about the dog tags earlier, and I wanted to say it when we were going through it. It was weird that it wasn't Meg Ryan that had him. Like you said, there wasn't even at least a scene where given to it. But whenever after Goose dies, and there's the scene with Meg Ryan and Tom Cruise, shouldn't he be? I feel like he should be consoling her more than she is him. And it seems like in that moment she's consoling him a little more. And I get they were close, but this was his wife.
Yeah.
And I saw the scene and I was like, wow, it seems like she's being the backbone of this situation. You know, like it's okay.
Well, it's a little bit more of, you know, like we were kind of discussing, like it was a little bit more of a hotshot man's world. So I think she also kind of like knew that they shared Goose.
Yeah.
You know, like they Goose was the timeshare between the two of them. So
And that's what you do with your wingman, right? Like it's literally it's up in the air if you spend more time with your significant other or your wingman. So
True.
Well, and that's the thing about it too, because she was like, you know, she told, you know, Maverick's like, oh, you know, he loved you. She's like, he would have followed you anywhere. And like I said, I think that's another issue or another example of like an implied relationship that, okay, we're just going to tell you this is how it is. We really haven't shown you that. We've shown you a little bit because, you know, little snippets of conversation, but this is the way it is. This is how you're supposed to take it. So here you go.
I don't know. This movie had enough. This movie was grounded enough to just be able to steamroll right through all that nonsense, so that you accept it.
Mm.
So I mean, you know, I don't know the time. Like, I don't know what the mid '80s were like being a 20-year-old, but at the same time, like I would have to imagine, like
It was crazy.
it wasn't too crazy far off from like what they were trying to show with this part of the military.
I bet it was fun. I'd love to go back and be a 20-year-old in the 80s. That was super fun.
I
Well,
wouldn't as a
and-
female because I'd have like crazy things. But anyways,
Sam.
Gonna
Well,
do a
and
flock.
to that point, like this movie isn't necessarily about the emotional side of piloting. Really, it's just like a story of how a pilot comes to be who he is later on. They try to envelop some of that emotional strength in there, but really to me it's just an action drama movie. So
I mean, it's a great movie for what it is. Lord have mercy, I had a stroke.
don't jive. Don't jive.
Sorry. I mean, it's a great movie for what it is because I mean, you know, it has that adrenaline that you're looking for. It has like a super adrenaline rush that you're looking for, and I mean, it hits it.
Spot on soundtrack. Hits you in all the right times.
Yeah, the soundtrack is pretty legit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Mark said the biggest thing that he's interacted with for this movie, especially when he was growing up, was the video game and the soundtrack.
I remember the cover for the video game, but I don't remember playing it. Like I remember the picture on the game or the cover, but I don't recall like loving Top Gun. I don't recall loving Top Gun when I was younger. It's one of those movies that I've liked better as I've gotten older. I mean, not that I hated it when I was younger, but once again, Iron Eagle. You know, this movie gets you in a few good feel spots. Luckily, my wife loves this movie, so I know it's a movie that I'm going to watch probably a million times for the rest of my life. You know, when I said we had to turn it on to do the review, and she was excited about that. She was like, "Wait, are tickets on sale?" Because I always buy tickets like as soon as they go on sale for things. You know, for most movies, I haven't with this one yet. But I told her, I was like, "Well, you know, go ahead and buy some if you want some." But I checked, and I don't think they were on sale until where I was at until you sent me that thing for it today, Ross. The picture of it. I think when you bought the tickets, or maybe I don't know. I still got to buy them. But
I didn't buy them. I just saw that they had their Tuesday event, so I was just sending it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to.
oh, nice.
Yeah, we probably would have gone like sooner, but it was like in essence sold out. And I'm not sitting in the front row.
No,
Absolutely not. No.
especially not for a movie like this.
Sixth
No.
row in a regular movie, I feel is right. 6th, 7th row is right about right. For a 3D movie, you want to be about the 4th row.
I would see this in the whatever the expanded screen movie theater
That'd
is.
be cool. Yeah.
But
I think
I'm
that's like
probably only going to see
the
it in
2DX. I think it's called 2DX. It's like has like that.
Yeah,
don't
whatever
care.
the
I'll let
the-
you guys.
the
I'll let you guys know
three-screen-
about the 40X and see it. We'll see if Claire gets thrown from her seat because I'm just waiting for that. Every movie we see 40X, I'm waiting for that.
We saw James Bond, and I did not realize going to a Thursday night showing at like 7 p.m. it was going to be sold out, but there was 3 seats left.
Wow.
And Matt and I went and saw it together, and the only seats left were in row C, which were 3rd row. And I was like, it's James Bond, I'll be fine. I was looking up and saw I saw the trailer for 355 and said, hell no, and went back to the register and got a seat for the last seat that was open. And there was 3 seats beside me. I was like, there's nobody sitting here. And the movie had started. I texted Matt because he was still in the front row. I was like, there's nobody sitting here. Come up. And he was like, no, like, we don't know if they're going to show up. And so I stuck my phone on Do Not Disturb because that's what I do in a movie theater. And he texted me about 30 minutes into the movie and was like, are they there? Can I come up? And I like completely was like focused. And so it's like, yeah, no, I buy my tickets if I know I'm going to see it and it's a popular movie. Like I buy my tickets when it comes on sale, so I don't have to deal with that ever again.
I love assigned seating first and foremost.
Oh,
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
all I remember is trying to go see midnight showings because, like, the Fridays were when the movies came out. You could go Thursday at 12 p.m. to go
Right.
see the movie.
Mhm.
And that's when, like, we used to go and see all of our movies that we used to go see in high school at, like, 12 p.m. on Thursday night.
Mhm.
And
Mean
especially
12
during the
a.m.?
summer.
Yeah, 12 a.m.
Um,
I wasn't gonna call him out.
I will.
whatever the case may be, midnight. But yeah, I remember like that's the thing. And like if there was a line, you would start counting the people that were in line. Like, okay, that right there takes up the great section. So are we going to be totally screwed or what's the deal here?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm so thankful they moved away from midnight showings.
Oh well,
Well, it was an event. I remember it was exciting at that age. It was exciting
Yeah.
because
Well,
you know
then, I mean,
when
you
were
could- you
16,
couldn't,
17, young. It
That's
was
the thing.
fun.
You couldn't purchase tickets online. It's like literally you went either to the box office. That's how you got your tickets. I mean, because I remember
Oh,
all
yeah.
the Star Wars movies. It was like that's how you got your ticket, and your ass
So
better
it
be
was-
first in line if you wanted a good seat. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I stood in line for a movie ticket, to be truly honest with you. It's been that long that I've been buying movie tickets online now. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
I've never stood in line for a movie ticket. The last time I stood in line for a ticket was football for Notre Dame at Clemson for student tickets.
Yeah.
I think episode 2 was probably about the last time I truly remember standing in line for a movie ticket. when
It might
came
have
out.
been the third one. It might have been. Hey, it might have been the 2. I don't know. It's
I remember doing it episode 2 because I remember going to was it High Point Mall.
Hmm.
And
I think I did
remember
for
having
the
to stand
first
in that line.
Transformers movies too. The first Transformer movie.
I'm not sure if I caught those on opening night.
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh, I
I
did.
did
I'm
not-
sorry. I mean, I'm 80s kid. See, the first time I can see like Optimus Prime, yes, I'm there. I don't care. Michael Bay, I don't give a shit. It's there.
I did
But
not
Top
go
Gun,
see a movie
I
opening
didn't get to see it at
weekend
all.
until college. So
I think we
Wait, what?
started in high school. Was when I started going seeing stuff.
I
like
have
movies.
3 siblings, Ross.
Okay.
So it was bring everybody to the movie theater, and this 6 people going to the movie theater was like $80-$100. So we went one time a year for Christmas, and we might have seen like 2 or 3 other movies, but it was like with high school friends, like 2 or 3 weeks after the movie came out.
Right.
Oh my
Gotcha.
God, I remember getting dropped off at the movie theater by like my parents or my friends' parents.
I was homeschooled
Oh yeah.
and then went to high school, so I didn't really have a lot of friends.
Man, being dropped off at movie theaters, Carnival Map. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm sure
I
you
lived-
guys were.
I lived when I was I'd say like 14 to like the rest 14 or 15 throughout the rest. Yeah, about 14. It's about 7th grade. Throughout the rest of my high school, I lived like across the street from a movie theater.
Oh,
So you could,
nice.
and me and Ross used to literally ride our bikes probably 20, 30 miles a day. Like we would ride from one side of town all the way on the other side of town and back. Like we rode our bikes a lot. But this movie theater being across the street and next to a bowling alley, it was
And like
That's some
$3
good
on
times
tickets.
right
Yeah.
there.
$3
Good
movie
times
tickets,
right
yeah.
there. Yeah.
So that was fun.
I remember many a time watching more than one movie there.
And that movie theater was open up until 2 years ago. COVID shut it down.
Oh man,
And it was $1 tickets for movies. $1 tickets, you get like
up until
$3
that
popcorn.
point that it shut down.
But yeah, but it
Oh,
was
this
it was
was
a
by
really
no
bad theater.
means.
Yeah, really
I'm
bad.
sure it was like upscale, 100%,
Oh, yeah.
just like the finest
Fantastic
thing.
foyer. Yes.
Exactly.
All right, we are way off topic, y'all.
Yeah, we
Oh,
squirreled up
sorry,
there,
we chase squirrels. I'm sorry about that.
I know we do, but it's okay. But okay, so is there any? We've kind of talked around the flying scenes quite a lot. Is there any flight scene in particular that y'all enjoyed?
I will say I did enjoy, especially like one of the end scenes where Maverick, for the most part, just like straight up put on the brakes and just did his little skirt and just came up and then come back.
I love those.
Behind. I'm like, that is like awesome as hell. And of
Mhm.
course, obviously, the second would be the inverted. And there's always been a question where it's like, would that be like feasible in the real world? Because if you think about it, the MiGs, had like the single fin, and then what was it? They were flying F-14s.
Yeah.
So they had like the dual. So it's kind of like if you did invert it, it's like you would be kind of like between the two, so nothing would really hit, right?
In theory.
Well, either way,
you know?
you could totally do it, even if they're both singles.
But that's what I'm
Because,
saying.
I
It's
mean,
like
those
because
things
I've
are
seen a
pretty
few
tall, but they're
things
not
saying
crazy.
where like, oh, this is not feasible. You couldn't do that. I'm like, can you really?
But it's
I don't
also
know.
yeah, I'd be like it's also a movie. So
Well,
But
it is true. It
Yeah.
is true. It's that too. But that is freaking awesome. And think about if you like invert with like a MiG, you're like, hey, we're just and then take a Polaroid. My kids don't know what a freaking Polaroid is.
oh,
Yeah, exactly. Look at
mine
my,
always
like,
want Polaroids. They
it's
know
like
what
if
they
you
are.
look at my like photo album for like me being young, everything is like a Polaroid up until probably about. Oh my god, I can't remember how old I was when it
That's
stopped
because
being a
being
Polaroid.
impatient used to mean you needed a Polaroid. Like if you were impatient and you didn't want to go to the hour
It's like and it's like
turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Well, with us talking about those fight scenes, there was one thing that at the end of it, I was kind of like, I wish they kind of would have done without that. And I'm not as familiar with any of this stuff because I've never flown a jet before. But like, okay, he gets caught in the jet wash the first time, right? And that's what puts him in the flat spin. So as soon as he goes back out there, he gets caught in jet wash again. And it's like, Ross, I don't know. You may know more about this than I do. That's not a really super common thing, especially for a trained pilot. Like that's something that I would assume, right? So being like in 2 situations back to back, hitting it twice. Like I know they wrote it in there for him to be able to defeat the demon that was in him, and I get that. But I feel like you could have just had him actually go out there and fly after the event that just happened, and that's beating the demon. But that was one thing I was like, wow, would he really that happen again? But okay, I get it. And like I said, I'm not an expert with it, so maybe it is something that's more common.
The odds aren't in his favor. I mean, although jets go fast, they are. I mean, their pocket envelope size is ridiculously small, and so even if they fly behind each other, you're talking about something that, I mean, it's equivalent to sitting in a turn lane, stopped, and having a semi truck blast by you going like 60, and you feel like your vehicle shake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of it's a real thing, but to happen twice that close in his brain, not to sit there and register how to get out of that way, or for it to not be a cognizant thing within so many weeks of him having the first problem.
Right.
I wouldn't imagine that it would be that serious the second time around.
Well, then again, in the same token, I think one of the themes throughout this movie is, like I said, like to kind of beat your demons. It's like, kind of, even though you have like, think about how many movies where it's like you're like the absolute low, the worst thing that could ever happen, but yet you still beat it. You're still the hero, versus whatever happens. So, I mean, it's still a movie, but it's like, no matter what think about a lot of, the superhero / comic book movies. It's like, no matter how, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Yeah.
If you think about that, and it's, because honestly, I'm thinking like, if I lost like my sister, dude, that takes a lot to come back from that. So I mean, it's like, it's like one of those things where, no matter how shitty it gets, you can still come back and you can still, be your best. But then again, how realistic is that, honestly?
If it would have been a series, that would have happened like episodes 6 and 7 of 10. And that's the difference between a streaming series and a movie. I guess they had to cram that stuff in there. Maybe it felt a little rushed. So.
I don't know. It's easy to pick it apart. It's easy to say, hey man, if that was me, I don't know if I would have, the mental, fortitude to handle something like that. But I mean, that was the golden age of movies like this. It's because it was so over the top. It was these characters were so, fantastic to where it's like you wanted to be Maverick. If you guys say you didn't want to be Maverick, you're lying. You were absolutely lying, because that was like
Doug Masters. Iron Eagle, baby. No.
But I mean, that's the point. I mean, regardless of whether it was Top Gun, regardless if it was Iron Eagle, regardless of, whatever, regardless if it was Hot Shots. I mean, whatever. I mean, you still, it's like, these main characters, it's like they have the highs, the lows, they get over it. And it's just they're such badass movies. Mm-hmm. I mean, to quote Johnny from Cobra Kai, it's like, it's just be badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think this movie and the new one coming out, honestly, it's going to be successful. I'm very positive it's going to be good, especially with the good reviews that are coming out. But even if it wasn't like a smash up away movie, I think that just the nostalgia factor for people who don't even love Top Gun are going to want to go see this movie because it's so hyped up now. Like I hear so many people talking about this movie, and I'm like, wow, okay. Like I wouldn't expect you to be a person who would get excited for Top Gun, but that's one of those movies that for a lot of people hit you in those feel good spots.
But honestly, when you hear like the theme, the Top Gun theme, when you hear that first boom, you're like, dude, that gets your attention. I don't give a shit who you are. That's what gets you attention, because you're like, oh, it's almost like an anthem. Actually, I think it's called the Top Gun Anthem. That's literally what it's called. It's the Top Gun Anthem. And it just, and of course, then I'm like, please let them have Danger Zone. If you don't, I'm going to be upset. At least I have some form or fashion.
Has anyone redone Danger Zone? Not like, I know people have redone
you
it, but
can't,
are they doing it
though.
for this movie? Like, are they going to remaster like a?
I don't know. Maybe it'll be like a background, or if it's not like a forward, like a theme, or maybe it'll be like a background, like it's got to be in there somewhere, because it's so like Top Gun. I mean, it's so like, you got to have this. There's certain elements of Top Gun you've got to have.
So I think.
Go
Sorry. I think the only music we know of, the soundtrack includes a new song by One Republic, I Ain't Worried, and Lady Gaga, Hold My Hand. Lady Gaga also composed the score alongside Hans Zimmer, Lauren Balfe, and Harold Faltermeyer. The soundtrack album will be released on May 27th.
I can get down with Hans Zimmer and Lady Gaga putting
But
something together.
you've got to have there's going to be some background if it's not in the foreground. There's got to be some background of.
I just
You gotta have some Kenny Loggins in there somewhere.
They can screw it up. And so that 10%, actually, there's probably not even 10%. There's like a 95 to like 98% chance they could screw it up if they redid it. But I'm holding out. That real fine little percent to see what they could do with it if they did something awesome. You know, I don't need like a screamo mix. I just need I need something that changes my heartbeat to the bass in that song.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Well, and you know this new movie too. Like they I think Tom Cruise like pitched heavily for Val Kilmer to come back. I don't know if y'all mentioned this when I'd stepped away a moment ago, but he pitched heavily for Val Kilmer to come back. But what was the female's name that played the main lead, the female lead in this movie?
That was Kelly McGillis. Kelly McGillis.
Yeah.
I heard a story today where she actually lives in Hendersonville, North Carolina, which is cool. That's right.
That's right down, just like right down the road from you.
And she was asked why she didn't come back, and it wasn't a matter of her like not even being asked. She just said I'm old and fat. Now it's like specifically she said I'm old and fat. She said I quit acting a long time ago to take care of my family, and I just never looked back. And she's like I'm not Tom Cruise. You know, I aged.
Look, if I was Kelly McGillis, I'm like old and fat. I don't care. I'll be all up in it.
I hear you.
Do I still take your breath away?
Because women age and shit happens. I'm sorry.
And I'm not saying she shouldn't have been in it because it was just funny that like she specifically like said that, and I was like, wow, okay, well,
so perfect for a Scientology joke. I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't buy
Tom
into
Cruise
your
hasn't
diet
aged,
religion.
so I guess his love interest. She couldn't have either. So, oh my God.
Full disclosure: if I had more time this week, I was definitely going to come on here with a Tom Cruise deep face swap, just to make this interesting for the whole entire conversation. I find it interesting though that there's been so many movies that have had the COVID effect, whether it be good or just not good, whether it be bad or worse. And I think that Tom Cruise and this Maverick Top Gun movie is sitting at par level with COVID. Like, it has taken so long for it to come, and it's been pushed back, and now we're at the point where it's coming out, and it still has, as far as what I know, more hype than it did when they were first talking about it.
Well, and Sarah, I'm not. It's the older generation who wants to see the films that they grew up with, kind of.
I'm fine with the older generation. I'm fine with that. It's fine.
I was like, I didn't want to.
I'm fine with that. I'm super fine with that.
Well, because like James Bond, the majority of people in that screening, I think maybe 15% of it was younger generation, like college students or like 20s, 30s. But then like you get like a lot of them were gray haired. And so I was just like, because James Bond is such a beloved character and has gone through several generations, I think you got a lot of people for that opening weekend. You're going to get a lot of people opening weekend from that same generation who want to come see this because this is a movie from the 80s. I think Terminator did pretty much the same thing. Every Terminator reboot has had that. Yeah, Ghostbusters.
Jurassic Park, same thing when it started.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these movies, it's like word of mouth because you had the initial iteration from like 80s or 90s, and I mean a lot of these movies they have aged well. They're rewatchable movies. It has solidified itself into pop culture. So it's like when you hear Top Gun, when you hear Maverick, and then when you hear like you said, it's like I feel a need for speed. Even the the gifts that you see, you can send on, you can send somebody. it's there. And now, like the younger generation, are like, well, what's the deal with this? Because now you're having, the sequel. Greg, like you said with Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle, you had the first one, then you had 4. It took 36 years to finally get a sequel to Top Gun. Top Gun is better.
Well,
but I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
And you know what? That could. Oh, sorry. Good.
But the fact of the matter is, a lot of times when you have these sequels, it's like you want to bring in the original actors to, be these characters. Tom Cruise, he may not age, but Home Slice is aging. He might not look like it, but he is.
Yeah.
He's not going to be around forever. So, and he's not going to be as, agile because, with like a lot of the stunts and stuff he's done, especially from, oh God, what was the other?
Mission Impossible.
Yeah, exactly. All those hanging from his fingertips from freaking cliffs and shit. I mean, he can't do that forever.
Right.
So, I mean, for him to come back and be, Pete Maverick Mitchell, I will take that any day. Any day.
Well, I think what you were talking about there with like the space of the movies coming out, I think we cracked the code of why Avatar is the second one's taking so long, is they wanted different generations to experience each movie, So now the kids of the people who saw the first movie can see the second one and say, hey, I want to go back and watch that first one.
So as James Cameron is rolling around in his grave because they're still coming out with the movies, that's his plan all along.
That was the plan.
Dude, don't even get me started on the Avatar. Don't even get me started. I
fell asleep. I don't remember the last 45 minutes. So
the first one was a long.
The movie,
it was fantastic, visually beautiful,
groundbreaking for the time.
Freaking long.
But now you come out with.
That's another
Avatar 2, you can drown in water, or whatever the name of it is. I don't
The Way of Water?
Why?
Said part 2, you can drown in water. Is that what you called it?
There's been some interesting like TikToks along the new one because I'm like, oh my God, this is just release it. Let me see it. Then I can make my own judgment because right now my brain can't handle it.
All right, y'all. We have talked about Top Gun. We have talked about kind of things that we want to see Top Gun Maverick have. Is there anything else y'all want to talk about Top Gun before we get to ratings?
Covered everything for me, I think.
I'm good.
Okay.
How about you, Ross?
Yeah, I mean,
it's Top Gun. It's awesome.
Yeah, when you think about this movie, you literally think about the key points. So
yeah,
I think we've talked about them all.
All right, Ross, since you're new here, what's your rating?
What's the scale, Katie?
Yeah, what is our scale?
I use 1 to 5 because of Letterboxd, but you can do 1 to 10.
Well, I'll do 1 to 5, or if I can do incremental. I mean, time has withstood the test of time. I'll give it a 3.5. I think that it only because it is an older film and it has withstood the test of time, and I think that the story on the nose was very simple. It didn't require a whole lot of thinking. It wasn't like it wasn't like Interstellar to where you really needed to find your mind's eye to even talk about it. But it wasn't also like a walk in the park. Something so stupid that you just needed to take less time. So I do believe that when it came out, it did something phenomenal that nowadays it's all done with computers and green screen and everything else. So sticking with the practical effects and everything else, I'll stick with that.
Greg, what you got?
I'm pretty close to it. I'll go 4 out of 5. That's 80%. I mean, solid B. It was a good movie. It does hit the nostalgia bone a little bit, and it's also a movie that I gotta kind of like because I'm gonna see it a million more times. With my wife before I die.
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, but it's a stand-up movie. It does hold the test of time. Yeah, passes the test. I don't know. It's good for being an old movie.
Sarah, what you got?
I will give it a solid 4. The reason being, like I said, action-wise, adrenaline, testosterone, it hits all the marks. Now, as far as like some of the intricate storylines, yes, I have issues with it. But it is, for a movie from 86, it is super rewatchable. It's one of those movies that you can still invest your time in it and you're thinking, oh my God, this is still freaking awesome. So Solid 4, man. Solid 4.
All right. I am in the same boat as Greg and Sarah. I've got a 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always gonna love fighter pilot movies. I think Captain Marvel's the exception, but there's other reasons for that.
That's another squirrel, right?
That's another squirrel. So and Tom Cruise gives a great performance. Kelly McGillis gives a great performance, and Ross is right. It's a very simple story, but for me, it works, and a lot of the physical effects really still hold up. And yeah, so I'm a solid 4 out of 5.
This
So
movie does so much.
We highly recommend it.
we
Go
highly
watch
recommend
it if you have not seen it before seeing Maverick. Go watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And y'all, this is coming out, I think, the week before Maverick comes out. I'm too lazy to pull up my calendar with all like the show notes and
No,
everything.
this is coming out with Obi-Wan.
No, I think she means this show.
Yeah,
okay.
this show is going to
Yeah.
come out the week
My
before
bad.
Maverick. We're doing another show on Obi-Wan Kenobi because I host the Star Wars Alliance one, so that's a different topic. So Greg, tell us where they can find you. We'll close Slice of Film out.
Oh, well, you can find me here, Super Civil Servants Podcast at the Bat Daddy 52, or you can check me out on the C3 Panthers Podcast. We go live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Ross, you're not on social media, right?
Not on social media. I don't exist.
Yeah,
you can
gotta
find
either
them here 9 p.m.
Right here.
on the SCS
On the
podcast
SCS.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, either hit up me or Greg to get a hold of Rolf. So
We'll relay messages.
we got his digits.
Sarah, where can they
bean.
find you?
You can find me on Twitter at MyLadyKitten. And then obviously, here Friday nights at the SCS podcast. And every so often you're catching me, Katie, on Slice of Film. So I'm like, super
Yeah, I know.
excited about that one.
Our 3-guy episode dropped this past weekend, and I didn't even realize this was episode 50 for Slice of Film, and I
Oh my
forgot to
gosh.
celebrate at all. So yeah, I'm celebrating right now because that was
Congratulations. That's
the little
awesome.
show that could.
That's awesome.
So I will send out a tweet in the morning because I've been meaning to do so all week, and I'm just slacker. So
Yeah, that free guy, that was a really super
It
fun.
was
It was
great.
super fun. I'll have to go back and listen to that because I'm sure it was probably crazy.
I had Clay had to go through and find the ad breaks because I lost all of like the paperwork I did because I thought I
Yeah.
lost the audio.
Yeah.
And so Clay listened to it. It was like I was rolling laughing at y'all because you were like, I don't understand this video game logic that's happening, but I really like everything else about this scene. So like, let's
Dude, we
move on.
recorded that like months ago.
It was August. It
Oh
was
my
August.
God. Because I was so heartbroken when you're like, I can't find the audio. I was like, no way. This is a good one.
I know. So y'all go check that out. If you'd like to follow me on the social media where I just forget to post constantly, Slice of Film is on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. Eventually I will get Mark and Sarah the credentials for that so that maybe I don't have to tweet all the things. My other show on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network is at Star Wars Alliance with the 8 in the Wars, and that is also on Instagram at the same username. My personal Twitter is at Slice of Katie, and that's also my Instagram, so you can go check me out anywhere. I like to pop into SCS when I can because
Always.
I like to sleep. So, but y'all, thanks for letting us crash the party. Congratulations on 4 years, y'all. Very impressive. I hope to one day be at that mark. But y'all, I want to thank everyone for listening or watching if you're here on SCS, and we will see y'all next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye,
All right, writing that time down.
All right. So now back to just rolling into SCS here. Katie, did you want to stick around for a few minutes? Because there was one thing I wanted to ask you, and then I had a couple news things I want to touch on that you might have a thing that's true to say, but I just.
So I'm feeling pretty good right now. So
Okay.
you can stick around for a little bit, but
Okay.
definitely once y'all start talking about shows and stuff, because I haven't seen any of those. I think we're gonna do like a Paramount Plus like 30-day and like binge a couple things.
Talk to me before you do that.
Okay.
Talk to me so I can steer you straight.
Well, Matt wants to
don't
watch
get you
Halo, and I pick
Hold off.
everything. So Matt gets to pick something.
Mhm.
You won't be disappointed with it.
Halo's done
Was-
next week, but Strange New Worlds, if you guys are Star Trek fans, just
Ooh.
started, so you gotta
It's
wait.
really good too.
Yeah, because
Really,
and
really
Katie,
good.
that's one thing I need to talk about because your star log. We need to talk about that.
I don't even remember what I tweeted. Okay.
Starlog?
It was something about you. It was like on Twitter. She's, something about her puppy. She's like Starlog, but I'm like, that's not how it starts. I'm sorry.
No.
She's like, I don't know anything about Star Trek.
In my defense, I was also sleep deprived. Greg, Ross, y'all didn't know this, but
Perfectly
Antilles 2 weeks ago
Mhm.
had a cluster seizure.
Oh no.
So he's good now. He hasn't had a seizure in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
He's on medication now. He
Yay.
will be for the rest of his life. So we're happy.
Mhm.
But I think at that point, I had probably had maybe 8 hours of sleep in the past 3 days. So I knew it was Captain's log, but I was just like, I need to tweet something,
Right.
and because
It's
I'm
like
losing my
Captain's
mind.
log star date. You're like just star
That's
log,
where the
whatever.
star date.
Yeah.
Star date.
I was like, good try, but no, that's not it.
I have 4 Star Trek things. I've only seen the new movies. That's all I've seen.
See, yeah, you were like me a year ago. So
I
Let
mean,
me
you're
tell
like a
you.
lot of people.
it's
I
fun,
mean,
it's a fun ride. It's a fun ride.
I mean, clearly, Star Wars. There's
Yeah.
more Star Wars over there.
Kind of rules
Also,
the
you
roost.
can see my ROTC jacket over
And
there. I
hey.
didn't even realize that.
and like I said, hey, you Star Wars, hey, I will totally. You are just the mistress on that.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek.
One of my go-tos. That's right.
Oh, Greg, there is a new version of the Revan book coming. Hopefully by the end of the year. So
Check it out and pre-order it. Well, you know what? This is a perfect segue. Then I was going to start out with the Doctor Strange stuff because I do want your opinions on Doctor Strange because I have. But since we're talking Star Wars, I had a couple Star Wars things I wanted to put out there, and one is about the book coming out on the 28th, June 28th, the Shadow of the Sith. I thought that was July. It could be. I'm not sure. I have it pre-ordered, so I'm not worried about it. I'll get an alert when it gets dropped to my phone. But there was an article the other day, and I'll share this. And look at this picture. This is kind of a hint of.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. It's June 28th.
Is it June 28th? Okay, Ross, that must have been the thing that I was thinking about. That I was telling you about. I remembered something was on your birthday, and I was like, okay. So I couldn't remember what it was, but that was it. But let me share the screen real quick. And I wanted to know if you knew anything about this character. I tried to look some stuff up, but I had no idea who it was. It's the new. It says fans may already know her name. I don't know who this is. I've been doing a lot of Star Wars reading lately, but I don't know who this is.
So apparently, this character, I believe their name is Kira.
Okay.
And they are presented in the interludes. I think it's the interludes for Aftermath Life Debt. However, if you're reading Star Wars books, I cannot not recommend Aftermath. Like, don't read it. It's not worth it.
Okay.
Don't read that trilogy. Chuck Wendig is an okay person, but the books are absolute trash.
Okay.
I have only read the first one, and I have tried. It took me probably 4 times to actively get through that book. And then I tried to start the second one. I've tried to start the second one like 6 or 7 times. I'm eventually
I heard the second one was good, or at least like better. I don't know.
Okay. I'm fixing to start a read through of everything in chronological order. Clearly, I have all the books, so I can do that. So I'm going to force my way through them because I'm also going to be working on written reviews and kind of key plot points for people to kind of take notice of. And I'm going to be doing that on my personal website, Slicer Scribbles. So my goal is to start that in June. I'm going to read a couple books and then start publishing. So I will force my way through them, but I absolutely hated Aftermath. And the main character in Aftermath is Wedge Antilles. And my dog Antilles,
one of your favorites.
that's who he's named after.
Yeah.
So I love reading those books. If you want Wedge Antilles perspectives, go read the X-Wing series that is Star Wars Legends, because those are way better books.
Okay.
That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
I read Legends books, but when they started doing the canon books, I started reaching a point where everything was coming out so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was it coming out so fast, it was this story's here, this one's here, this one's here. Like it was all over the place. And like I'm all for like original stories and I'm all for doing their spin-offs, but what was happening was I don't read that like to that extent. Like I used to when I had more time. Like I mean, going back to the whole flying thing, like I used to read on flights like all the time. But man, I like ever since like 2015, 2016, like I get through. I'm still reading the same book from like last year that I still have not made it through. But then it's like to a point where I don't know if I can keep up with all the stories that they have when they try to do it canonically, because it's all over the place. Like I'm better off like paying attention to the comic books, and that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah. Well,
And I can definitely understand that because like this bookshelf has every single Legend book on it. That's what I grew up with. That's why I'm a Star Wars fan. I finished that collection late last year.
Wow.
So those are my babies. I will always love those. And that's one of the Patreon shows I'm doing for GUA is actually a Legends walkthrough where I'm walking through the big plot points and kind of leading the timeline through. But I completely understand that because that's why I've been holding off on a canon chronological read through. But I think at this point, I've got enough books where I can walk through it and then just go, okay, if it's new material coming out, like Brotherhood just came out, which is an Obi-Wan Anakin book, like I'll review that like on its own and just kind of outside the scope. So, because they're always going to be writing new things. They're always going to be coming out with new stuff. At some point, I just go, okay, we got a lot of books. Right. I need to read some of them.
I know that's interesting because I know you're talking about Star Wars and the canon, legends, and all that kind of stuff. And I know I'm kind of coming on the end of this because I had to take a break. But anyways, but just kind of give you a synopsis like with Star Trek, because when I started like reading the books for that, it's like the kind of the same thing because the majority of those books took place after Nemesis. So when Picard comes out, Discovery comes out, and now Strange New Worlds comes out, it's like it's I have all these books that are either like Voyager, Titan, which after Next Generation, all this kind of stuff. It's like I love it, and dude, it's hard to keep up with that. It's like, okay, which timeline are we going? Going down? And I try to keep up with the Star Wars canon as well, and with the books, and I don't know if I have enough time to keep up.
Well, because I'm also at the point where I'm like, okay, I kind of want to start reading like other things, like. And Sarah, we still got to do our Bridgerton episode, and Clay wants to get in on that.
Does he?
He does, because Abby made him watch it, and I'm trying to see if Matt will record with us too, because he's been doing the comic one with us, and I think that would be hysterical to get like ever. Anyways, but
I would love to hear a male perspective. Any male perspective, I would love to hear that.
But like that has me wanting to read more romance books, and I have that top shelf is the only shelf on that book that's like not Star Wars. There's tons of romance books up there.
Let me. I can speak on this. I can completely speak on this because from the time I was in high school, I went to like the public library and romance novels. It was like the spinny things. They weren't even on the shelf. They were on like the spinny things by the front door. Girl, I read so many books. I swear, I probably read some of these books. My favorite historical romance, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's actually like a time travel. It's by Jude Devereaux. It's A Knight in Shining Armor. I probably read that book like 5 times. I can tell you
exactly what happened.
And Greg, I'm sure Ashley can probably tell you too, because I'm sure she's probably read some of those books.
I think she tries to get into reading novels and stuff like that, but it just doesn't.
Some of them are like super hilarious to the point like seriously. But I always gravitated toward like the historical romance. It's kind of like Bridgerton, that kind of thing. Like The Duke Who Loved Me, or some crazy shit like that. So Yeah,
just
so
watched that
Bridgerton's
Lost
like
movie
just
the
watching
other
that.
night.
I was like, oh my god, I've read this before, and now I'm seeing it, and like, oh my god, this is so different than what my mental picture was.
See, I consider Star Wars novels romance novels because I'm fucking in love with them.
There you go. I like your logic there,
Me
man.
too.
But,
Me too.
But
The
I
thing
want to
about
say,
historical romances is so funny because it's like, okay, this dude knows how to like pull apart like a corset. That's some bullshit. But anyways,
well, I wanted to say too, you were talking about Aftermath and how that wasn't a good series, and that's funny because I've actually seen that's like one of the only Star Wars books I see at Walmart constantly is Aftermath, and maybe that's the reason why. But like, I don't know, like I've got all the High Republic books, and I've started a couple of them. I just can't get caught. I can't grasp onto that. It just doesn't catch me, those books, But I still have all of them because I'm gonna go through all of them. I'm gonna read them or listen to them. But I was caught up in the Thrawn and the Revan books and everything else, and I really fell in love with that. But I still, like, right now, there's so many Star Wars books, it's almost impossible to find the right order. Like I've got all those Revan and Thrawn books, but I've also got like the Scoundrel book. I've got Heir to the Empire. I've got the Kenobi's Legends. I've got Vader's Rise of Vader. Lords of the Sith. I've got all the stuff that I haven't even read yet because every month I get 2 credits and I just buy 2 Star Wars books because there's always Star Wars books that I don't have.
Greg, I will text you pictures of my bookshelves because they are in chronological order.
Okay. So I can just go through and see if I can find those in that order. That's a good way to do it. So, because I like going through things in order. Because honestly, I did Thrawn before I did Revan, and I should have.
Well, and like that one's a little bit different because like the Thrawn series you read, that one's canon. Revan isn't right now.
Yes.
So
yet.
So, and I can also send you the Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a Legends timeline. And it has the canon timeline. However, you're only reading the Del Rey books at this point. So it can get a little convoluted because it has like the comics, the young readers, and everything on there. So I'll just send you pictures of my shelf. The canon shelf I have, they're in chronological order by like book type. So
yes, I'm gonna get pictures of her shelf. That's what's up.
So like this shelf is the hardcovers. I have a standing desk. I'm fancy. And then this one is all of my paperbacks.
Huh.
So like these are all in chronological order because to have them weird stacked where they're not the same, it bugs me.
Yeah.
So all my hardcovers are the same, and then those are all the same. I did put these are different paperbacks, but they're still in chronological order. So.
Well, actually, you talking about it's funny because this happens so often, but that us talking about the Revan and you talking about it not being canon is actually perfect segue into the next Star Wars story that I was looking at, and this is really nothing, but it was Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie, and Star Wars drops first plot hints, and you can read through the whole article, and there's no plot hints at all.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't seen any plot hints.
Yeah, there's no plot hints.
And the Geekverse guys did this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? When was this revealed as an Old Republic film? Yes, I'm calling you out, Snell, because like.
Well, that was the one thing that was in here, and they were like, "This is a fan favorite thing," and could they be going thousands of years in the past or to the Old Republic? And I'm like, that's great, but every quote they have from anybody with this is no comment or we haven't decided on this yet. There's nothing, so like everything is just completely fan based, right?
Pretty much.
I haven't heard anything about it.
And like there's a rumor of a High Republic movie coming, and there's a rumor of an Old Republic movie coming, and those are supposed to be the next 2 movies up. So like Rogue Squadron is supposed to be delayed further, and one of those movies is supposed to be taking its slot. So with Michael Waldron writing the script, their first thought process is, oh, okay, Old Republic, because as much as I love the High Republic, like it's not caught as many people of a mainstream fan base because they're just books and comics.
Right.
So until people actually like see it come to Disney Plus or to a movie, nobody's going to be asking those questions other than the nitty gritty Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's literally just roots. It's all under the surface right now.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate because the people who are working on the High Republic, they're really great authors, and a lot of the work is some of my favorite pieces of Star Wars. Um, and if for people who are looking for a big Star Wars story and like missing stuff, that's what you want to go look for. Because there's like several pieces of media. So there's 3 middle grade, 3 young adult, and then 3 adult books. Not to mention all the comics and the graphic novels that came out. And you're in a lull right now because phase 2 is not supposed to come out until October. So it's the perfect time to get caught up on those if you're interested.
They had High Republic. They had at least 3 comics for Free Comic Book Day out on the table, like right before you walked in. The places we went to, and I mean, like once again, like it's one of those things. Like it just has not had enough steam with me yet. I think mainly because I want to see much more. I want to see more structure. And I know that it takes time to build structure. And I say this all the time about like the Marvel films. You know, people are really down on the Marvel films right now because like we're post Endgame. And when you're post such a big event like that, everything after that seems very non-climactic for a very long time. And I think that High Republic is that for me because I'm still dancing around. I love all the stories that we got in Legends and everything that came prior to. You know, I love all the post episode 6 stuff that we got out of Legends. But then you turn around and you try to, you're not reinventing the wheel, but you're trying to, you know, to retread the tire. And then it's to me, it just has not caught that point yet. Now that we talk about Kevin Feige, I think it's literally just something else to try to keep Star Wars relevant in the world of titles. We need something to talk about, put it out there. You know, we keep going back and forth on the whole Rogue Squadron and Patty Jenkins thing. You know, they mothballed Ryan Johnson's trilogy. You know, we sit here and talk about who else is going to do what other movie they're going to come out with. And to me, it's all, I don't want to say it's all hearsay, but I mean, like, COVID introduced a whole new problem, but this has been a Star Wars problem prior to COVID. And it's not fair to say that anything is to blame for it, other than the fact that I just don't think that, besides what people that I've listened to have dubbed the Mandalorian TV universe, we haven't really seen a whole lot of solid traction beyond what they're doing for the Disney Plus shows.
They need to pick a direction and kind of stick in that direction. And honestly, I'm super happy that the High Republic has been a book-only endeavor so far, because it's not forcing everybody to cross over, and it still allows the books to be very much relevant in the universe, because that was their big concern with Legends. It was the initial reaction was Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh, well, we want to go in our own direction. We don't want people to be confused. And I'm like, well, Star Trek does it. Why can't Star Wars do it?
Marvel does it. Star Trek does it. Yes.
So, and I mean, Legends 110% is the reason that George Lucas was able to sell Lucasfilm to Disney, because Legends kept Star Wars relevant. So it really sucks that it kind of hit the fan, but there are some really great novels for Star Wars canon. Brotherhood that just came out. I know I talked about it earlier. That I read that. I listened to it. It was a great book.
Actually, I almost just bought it because sitting here looking at it, I have 2 credits. And I was like, maybe I should get that one.
It was really great. Mike Chin did a fantastic job. We will be reviewing that on Star Wars Alliance May 25th. So I'm going to get a little more in depth with it and like go through, take my notes, highlight in the book. So
there you go. All right. Well, that was all I really had about the Star Wars there, unless y'all had anything else you wanted to say about it. And the only other thing I wanted to specifically talk with you about, Katie, was I haven't heard your thoughts on Doctor Strange yet. And I always love hearing your thoughts in these movies because you and I share very different thoughts on these, but
Oh
you
Lord,
always,
she done.
we always do.
I was like, what?
There's nothing wrong with
Dream
other
walking.
thoughts, it's just that we always like. So I'm interested. Did Dr.
You
Strange
want to
move
hear
the
her
needle
hot
for you?
take? Don't lie.
Like
You
give me
want to
some
hear
hot
her
takes.
hot
Did it move the
take?
needle for you? Is it changing your rankings up, or was it another Marvel movie?
So let me pull my ranking up because I need to remember where it's at.
Okay. So you're smart. You have your ranking written down. I have mine somewhere in an audio form, but I haven't written it down.
Letterboxd is your friend. You can make lists and like ranked lists.
Okay.
It's very nice. So Marvel Cinematic Universe ranked. So I'm gonna go. Incredible Hulk is number 28. Thor is number 27. No Way Home is number 26.
Okay.
Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness number 25.
Wow. Okay.
I can tell you why. I can tell you why.
Go ahead.
You have issues with Wanda's story.
Yep.
Okay. Now
I don't know if you were looking in the GUA chat because
no. It's like Katie. I know you, lady. I know you. I can figure out how, because I can see where you're going with that. I can see where you're going. So,
well, those were some of my issues too with the movie. I like the movie, but Wanda's thing was so. I want to hear your what was an issue with it, because see if it's the same thing I'm thinking.
So where is it? So I had a lot of issues with just the way the story went. I think that the visuals are very beautiful, and I actually enjoyed some of the stuff that Raimi did in the film. My issues definitely lie in the story, because I'm always going to lean more towards a story with character development. I think I reiterate that every review is that's the most important thing to me. I've dealt with a lot of trauma between college and childhood. And so Wanda is a character that I've strongly related to. And to see her dealt the hand she was dealt in Multiverse of Madness pissed me off.
I'm curious. It's like,
well, before I get into that, America Chavez was also, she could have been a prop. She did not need to be in this movie. She could have been something else. I think Gomez does a great job with what she's handed. She makes the best with what she's got. But they literally just like said, "Oh yeah, here's America Chavez, your representation. Okay, bye." like
she was like just like injected. It was like just there was not really anything. There was like no structure. It was like just like boom, boom, boom. Here you go.
Yeah. And Stephen Strange really doesn't get a whole lot of development either. I thought his story arc in this was very much replicated from Doctor Strange, and I'm a huge Benedict Cumberbatch fan. So I really wanted to love this movie, because as soon as I found out he was cast for Doctor Strange in the first one, I was like, oh, this is going to be it. This is going to be my favorite. And Doctor Strange, let me tell you, Doctor Strange is number 11 on my list.
Okay. So the Doctor Strange series for you is like the Guardians of the Galaxy movie for me. Really, really like the first one, and the second one just didn't deliver.
Yeah. And I actually wrote a full article on Wanda's characterization for Full Circle Cinema. And I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the private chat, but I'll kind of summarize it. I came up with the title myself. It's called Wanda Maximoff in the Multiverse of Issues. I thought that was great. Self-life.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's like I have my thoughts. So I'm kind of curious, but I might have a different viewpoint than you may have. So that's why I'm kind of curious what yours is.
So I was actually on the Marvel Alliance Doctor Strange review. So we kind of went over a lot of this there. But before I got on that, and while I was writing this, I actually rewatched WandaVision just to kind of like see the transition. And there's not a whole lot of transition. The Darkhold is mentioned by name only once in WandaVision, and you don't get any idea of what it does to the person who uses it. Agatha has the blackened fingers that Wanda has in Doctor Strange. But that's it. There's no warning. Like this can consume you. No, nothing. The writers for the showrunner for WandaVision tried to very thoroughly make sure that Wanda did not turn into the powerful woman who loses her mind trope, because that's a big thing from her comic storyline. Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen, very similar storylines to kind of what happens where Daenerys loses a lot of people, and then Wanda loses her kids, and they both lose their mind. So the WandaVision showrunner actually tried to make sure that they wrote around that and gave her an opportunity to be someone else. And so I found it really interesting that they had the trailer quote, "You break the rules and become the hero. I do it and become the enemy." And it's very frustrating because like they use it to kind of show her reasoning for what she's doing and finally just accepting the role of a villain. But Strange doesn't even take into consideration her feelings and goes and uses a terrible spell from the Darkhold where he actually knows I shouldn't use this, and then goes and uses it anyways. And Wanda had no idea the depths of how the Darkhold would treat her, and that there were other options for her to learn how to control her power and stuff. So that really bugged me. And Wanda, in her previous appearances in the MCU, has certain triggers that kind of break her down. Ultron, Pietro, her parents, Sokovia, it all kind of like causes her to get emotional and everything. But you have the Illuminati sequence with the Ultron bots, and she doesn't bat an eye. And it would have done worlds of good to kind of show Wanda behind the Scarlet Witch if she'd broken at that moment and like kind of gasped and like gone, "These are Ultron bots. What the heck am I doing? Like, I'm destroying all these people just like the Ultron bots were destroying Sokovia, and we were having problems there." So I think that would have helped a lot. And I really loved WandaVision. I thought it was a great case study on how to process grief, because everybody processes grief differently. And again, it was focused on not turning Wanda into another Daenerys. So the MCU has shown that they're able to work around comic storylines and change those up to fit their needs, and they should have changed this one because the strong woman can't survive trauma, grief, is a very old storyline that needs to kind of be thrown out. So that's kind of a summary. Greg, you're muted.
I was going to say, I can agree with you on a lot of those points, and it kind of leads to what my biggest issue with the movie was with Wanda's story was I didn't like the way it ended with her, because it was talking a villain down. And you just mentioned, with the Ultron bots, she's not realizing she's doing the same thing with this and that. In the movie, she's told a million times the exact same way the movie ends. She's told that a million times. It's telegraphed what's going to happen. So I was hoping they were going to go a different direction with it. But in the end, the villain who has been told a million times is talked down. And it's like, I don't like that. Like, but
well, and the GOA guys tried debating this with me. I don't care if there's 2 years of storyline between WandaVision and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There's not enough shown on screen to actively show that transition into straight villain that we get in Multiverse of Madness. There's just not. And you can headcanon anything you want behind the scenes. I do it for Star Wars. I do it all the time. But for a character that means so much to me, and the second female hero in the MCU, especially after the way Captain Marvel was treated in her storyline, to get that first solo film, that pissed me off.
I get that.
Sarah,
what's up?
I don't really consider Wanda as a villain, because what is her motivation?
To be
Wanda's
with kids, I
motivation is
guess.
to get her kids back.
Yeah.
Okay. As a parent, that's one thing, because Greg, like to your point where you're saying it's like talking the villain down. I felt like the only way that Wanda would be able to realize, hey, you need to like just stop, and this is your reality, is when, as much as she's fighting in every multiverse or whatnot to get her kids, it's like when her kids in that one specific, I guess timeline, if we want to call it, when they're like literally like petrified and terrified of her.
Mhm.
And she finally sees herself to where I'm fighting. It's like I'm going so hardcore to do this. She's like, and it's almost like I took it like, she realized that I'm like destroying all these other, in this multiverse. It's like, they have this mom here, and as much as she wants to be that mom, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like you're looking at you're looking in the mirror at yourself.
Yeah.
And you realize it's like I'm fighting so hard, but yet I'm literally becoming the enemy. So I never really looked at her as a villain. I mean, I can see how a lot of people would see her as a villain, because it's like, the way it's like, but she had this one motivation, and that was like, she's like, I want my children.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, even the conversation Brian and I had, he was like, well, in that, if you had the Ultron bots, and, it's like, would you really? I'm like, okay, let's think about this, biologically. Vision was not technically the father.
Yeah.
He definitely wasn't in the other universes, I'll tell you that.
She created these kids, whether she wanted Ultron, Vision to be the father or not, and what iteration it was, whether he was, like the Paul Bettany version, or if he was like, like the Vision version. It's like she created these kids. For her to fight so hard in every single multiverse or version, or whatever you want to say, to fight to have these kids back, and for her to finally, I felt like the only stopping point that she would have to keep her from like, look, lady, this is your end point. It's for those kids to look at her and be like, oh my God, you're so awful. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm coming out as a parent.
No, you're not wrong, and I get that. It's just I think the thing I had the biggest problem with it was telegraphed. Like you could see it coming the whole movie, and I was like, well,
but ultimately, what would be
if
the other option? What would be another option?
You could figure out some kind of way to defeat her without her just giving up. I feel,
that is her defeat.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like
strong
as
she is. I mean, what else would stop her? I mean, honestly,
I guess it comes down to power sets for me, because like it seems like in every movie you have different characters that are the most powerful being in the universe just for the sake of that movie, and I don't know. It's like I said, because I saw it coming, I was expecting them to throw me for a loop at the end, or to give me something different at the end, and it was exactly what I expected it to be. Then maybe it's my issue. It's why I have a problem with it, I think. But it's it's like, I see this coming, and I'm not a writer, like, and I know these guys are smarter than me. Like, give me something a little different at the end.
I didn't necessarily have a problem with like the way like the kids were brought in to kind of defeat Wanda. I had a problem with her dying at the end, like even if it's a faux death. Like I hate that trope.
We don't know if she's dead.
It was almost like she became like a martyr. It's like she became a martyr. It was like, okay, it's on me. I'm gonna handle this. I'm gonna take care of it. I think that's the issue, is like her being a martyr.
I think it's more story based. I mean, like, if you take her out of the picture because we all believe she's dead, then, because my take at the end of WandaVision was that she was literally using that book to find ways to find her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one goal, besides becoming more powerful, to do that she was actually trying to accomplish. And so whenever we have this now, we can take her out of the story and not bring her back in until they need something, and like maybe like 2 team ups down the road or something like that. You can ice her for the time being and not have to really worry about it.
Yeah, and I think I think the way they chose to handle this story, it and Sarah, you obviously being a mother can speak to this, but it really villainizes motherhood. I think trying
It does.
to
I mean, honestly, it does. I mean, it villainizes like parenthood. Period. I mean, because okay, case in point. Think about. I mean, I know the closest is your pups. I mean, you would do anything for your pups, right?
I literally just experienced that.
That's what I'm saying. I would do anything for. I just got a crazy diagnosis for my oldest cat, and she's coming on 17. I'm like, well, this is something completely new, and I'm thinking I will do whatever I can to keep her going. So I mean, it's whether it's 4-legged or whether it's 2-legged, it don't matter. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that. It's that mindset of where you literally do whatever you can to like either be in their life or have them in your life, and then when the reality finally hits you in the face that this is either it's not meant to be or it's somebody else's reality, it's not yours, that's a very humbling experience. I don't give a shit how powerful of a being you are. When you're hit with some a reality like that, when the one thing that you have done anything and everything to get to this point, and then they look at you and it's like absolute terror, like just it's not what you expected. You're just like, oh my god, it's a reality, like just like hits you right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was missing the realities where the kids were absolute shits. It was missing that, because
they're never that good.
We needed. They're not going to sing songs about how they're going to be good if they get ice cream. They're going to be like throwing shit around the house because they didn't get ice cream.
Give me some damn ice cream.
I think that's like the most
just like Hulkbuster
non-reality.
I do think that and Greg, I think that you brought this up last week. I do think that the extent of the multiverse travel was overplayed through fan hype and underplayed on the film. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that to some point, because it's too difficult to tell a story that bounces around every 5 to 10 minutes in a movie, in a 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. But also, they leaned really heavy on the 838 universe, mm-hmm. where those were the kids that she went back to see at the end. Those were where the Illuminati was. That's where that Christine came from. That's where, the Ultron bots, blah, 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 where everything was at. But why there's such a strong focus on one? And I don't know if we were going to get that answer. And I don't know if it was on point, or I don't know if it was for a reason, because of like budgeting to tell a story. I don't know what any of those things are. I just know that I would have liked what you're describing, Greg, a more twist of an ending. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't know what kind of twist that I would really imagine.
I'll tell you. Go ahead. You miss a prime opportunity, because her entire time, or everything's talking about bending reality and reality and reality. You don't ever see her do anything to reality. You see her do things in different multiverses, but never in reality. Well, guess what's a great storyline to introduce the X-Men? House of M, where she creates her own reality. They missed a prime opportunity in this movie of her doing that and walk. Now, I'm sure they have their own plan to walk X-Men in. I'm just saying, I feel like
bringing a gun to a knife fight. I mean, it's a
big storyline. It really is. I mean, I don't know.
Even just to touch on it.
Yeah, it's difficult if they're going to do it. I hope they don't focus on that 828 universe a lot more, though, because Reed Richards is dead in that universe, and I want to see some damn Reed Richards.
They're all dead. Bolticus or Blackicus Bolticus is dead, or whatever they call him.
Black Bolt.
I know, but I love that. I love the gibberish moment. Yeah, the fact that she don't have time because he's out flying the
Enterprise.
You're right. I guess you're right. That is her changing reality a little bit there. So.
And she definitely, like we said last week, spaghetti. Mr. Fantastic. So,
yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Katie. And I know, like I said, I love your takes on a lot of DC and Marvel movies, especially because we have a lot of different views on them, but we actually agree on a lot of this stuff on this one.
Yeah.
I don't have mine ranked as low as yours, but also for, it's more middle of the pack for me. But I don't exactly know where it would land because I have to go back and look at my list. But for me, like basically from like 11 to like 23, they're all about the same anyway. There's only like 5 that I'm kind of like, you know?
Yeah. And my goal, because I want to establish myself more as a written reviewer. So my goal with these is Matt and I, we were trying to do an MCU rewatch before this happened. And then we watched like a shit ton other stuff. So we didn't actually, I think we got to Iron Man 2. Or no, that's the next one we need to watch. So then we didn't get far. So, but yeah, I know I always come with the hot takes. I was really frustrated with this. So
nothing wrong with that, you know. So I like different points of view. I agree with you on a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, I just want to get checks on that. I didn't really I had a couple other news things, but it's getting kind of late with the news, and I want to get these shows out of the way, and nothing else is really important. But I definitely wanted to talk Star Wars with you because love it, and I want to get your thoughts on Doctor Strange. So, but I think we are gonna, unless y'all have, Ross, do you have anything specific you want to talk about news? Sarah, anything specific you want to talk about news?
I'm good. I'm absolutely good.
I guess I could say Doctor Strange did pass 500 million 2 days ago. That's pretty good. Pretty good return.
Yeah, it's not bad
so far. So, but all right, cool. Well, I guess we'll get into the shows. Katie, do you want to go ahead and hop off?
I'm gonna
get some rest. Cool deal. Well, you were on here before that you said where they could find you at, but you're always welcome here. We love having you on, and I'm gonna get in contact with you about the next book to buy.
I can't wait till you and Matt actually binge Halo because that's going to be interesting.
Yes,
I think there's like one
it.
episode left.
Yeah,
put it this way, Brian will not watch it. He will not watch it. He's been keeping up with it, so he knows about what happened in this past episode. He's like, hell no.
I heard because I'm in the review and editing chat, and the guy who's reviewing it for Full Circle Cinema, he's like, I don't watch it. Like, no, not worth it. But I pick a lot of the stuff, so Matt has to get to pick some stuff.
But you have to remember with Halo, Brian has played Halo from the very first iteration.
Matt has too. So I'm curious.
And the whole thing, because he watched the first episode, that threw him off. And I'm like, I don't care. There's a good story there. As I'm very well aware of a lot of stuff that happened in the game. And I'm like, get over yourself. Just watch it because it's just, you can't go off the game itself. You've got to add some elements to it.
It's called an adaptation.
Exactly.
For a reason.
Not a remake. So, or a remake, I guess, would do the same thing. I don't know. Yeah, it's tired.
So, yeah. I told Pinky Payment.
I'm like, you just wait. I'm tired.
I think you'll enjoy it when you check it out. It is really a good show.
It's
cool. I want to hear your thoughts when you do. But hey, seriously, Ghost in the Darkness. I know I give you a lot of silly movies to watch a lot of times, but that is one that you'll sit down and you'll be like, okay, that's a damn good movie right there.
It is on my It is on my post-it note of doom.
And that was like Val Kilmer
made the
Prime
list
right there, like Val Kilmer Prime at that moment. So
how long has Top Gun been on your list?
I've seen Top Gun. I've watched a lot of Top Gun because I grew up with that movie. So
okay,
still haven't seen Coneheads.
My mom would not let my dad show us Coneheads.
Oh,
why?
We should definitely. Super Civil Servants is going to do a review on Coneheads. You got to join us.
Okay.
It's
Ross,
in the book now.
I was homeschooled and grew up in a very conservative Christian home where I watched movies that my parents picked out for us and Veggie Tales and maybe a little bit of Kim Possible until I was probably 12 years old.
But there's nothing wrong with
Coneheads. You get a Patreon of Twilight. That's really fun.
It was a different time. You're right. I don't think there's anything wrong with it either, but they do use condoms for chewing gum,
Sarah, that's not.
What else are you supposed to use
it
for?
But no, seriously, we'll do that. We'll plan a Coneheads review sometime, and because y'all's reaction whenever I said that was like, okay, we definitely got to watch that because that is one of my all-time favorite movies right now.
Yeah, I've probably seen that movie with you like a dozen times easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, but all right. Well,
all right, y'all.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Katie. Love you. See you later, babe.
All right, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but I watched both the episodes today. I watched the Halo episode today, and I watched the Star Trek episode today. And holy shit, what a day of viewing! Both episodes were fantastic for me. Which one do you want to
Strange
talk about?
Worlds, I think I remember because I remember my phone hit me twice because I think I like dozed off because it was getting late. Like, I watched late last night.
Not because it was boring, because it was getting late. I got you.
No, because it was just like, oh God, okay. Anyways, but I think I got the gist of it, so we can talk about it.
Okay. Well, which one do y'all want to tackle first?
Might as well just do that one first.
You know?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and knock that away because Halo.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, y'all said this was going to be more episodic, like the whatever happened last week, not necessarily having to do with anything this week. And you definitely see that in the second episode because it really doesn't have much to do with last week at all. Besides I think the main storyline running through is Pike and his tenure thing. That's the only real main thread running through the storyline. And I was actually looking up some stuff on it. Did y'all know the first episode actually broke Rotten Tomatoes record? It was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
And then one editor gave it a 2 out of 4, and it dropped it in 98. So out of one editor, out of everybody, yeah, that's what this article was basically saying, was screw that guy.
Opinions like asshole. Everybody got one.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about star dates earlier. The last episode ended on star date 2259.42. This episode started on star date 2912.4. So quick math. I don't know how long a star date is. That's 700 star dates. So there's some. I'm assuming there's time between the first episode and the second episode.
I'm sure there's probably, if you think about it, Next Generation. I mean, do you literally think it was like the next day?
Right. Yeah. I just didn't.
There's got to be, because it's like I never really got into the star dates to try to figure out. It's like, okay, what is it like technically like time? Because I'm I'm just going to take it as it is.
Actually, I will tell you because I do know. 36 hours is what their operating day is.
Okay.
And I know that from Next Generation because they said that they found it more better for the being in space and occupying your day and night schedule for it to be
just like a typical 24 hours. You got the sun rising from the sun setting and that kind of thing.
So yeah, they call it 36 hours. I don't know. That's a weird thing that stuck with me from years ago. I don't know why.
So I wonder if in Stardate, each number is a date or an hour, because that would be 700 days, 36 hours a day. That'd be a long time between two episodes. Maybe it means just hours.
I mean, if one star date, I don't know what the time is there. Yeah. I just know what the operating time is for a Starfleet officer person.
Well, and then one other interesting fact about time I found was the comet on this episode was designated C-2260, which identifies a non-periodic comet discovered in 2260, indicating they're in year 2260 in this series. So they called it a year for it. That's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, I would have never known that if I wouldn't.
No, when you say non-periodic, do you mean element-based or time-based?
I would think time-based. I'm not sure. I'm sure it says identifies a non-periodic comet discovered in 2260. So I'm assuming that the name is just the year of time that it was coming out.
Just I Wikipedia'd it. So it's the original method was inspired by the Julian date.
Yep.
So I guess it just kind of just went off on that.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
And for those who listen who don't know what the Julian date is, it's literally just the day of the year.
Yeah, because I literally, in my line of work, when we do bundle codes, on our product, we bundle a product. So we actually have date, or we're kind of bundle codes, and the last 3 digits are literally from the Julian calendar. So on our calendars that we print out every year, it has that number, which is, basically you start from January 1st and you count all the way down.
Yep.
All the way to December 31st is 365 or whatever.
We had to do that for our aircraft forms.
Yeah. So
it was always right now it would be 16 and then whatever day it is.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, let's break down this episode. like I said, I thought it was really cool when you were talking about it being episodic. I was wondering how good can you make the characters if you're going to have a new villain every week? You know, I grew up on stuff like Power Rangers, stuff like that, where it's a new villain every week. But I'm wondering, like as an adult, how I'm going to like that. And I would say with this episode especially, there was enough description and time with the quote unquote villain and story. I thought it all worked. You know, I kind of like the way that they did it. I'm not a huge Fate guy, you know, but the way they played it off in this episode was pretty cool, and they're really leaning towards the whole creating your own fate because, like I said, the backline story is Kirk with this, or not Kirk, Pike with this 10 years, and I wonder to myself, like, if you know that in 10 years there's gonna, why don't you just retire in 9.5? You know, like, 9.5 years, I'm going to retire. But they do kind of touch on that in this episode because he's kind of bringing up, he has the moral question of, I know the names of the people I save at this date that I die. I can change that. And I can let these people die. So I guess he's battling with that in his own head about, you can change that, but you save these people. You know, like, if you change that, you give up saving these people. Maybe. It depends.
I mean, you got to think, like, at any point in time where you're given a metaphorical fork in the road, you have to play that game of like, well, what do I do? Mm-hmm. Like, and if I take each path, like, where's it going to lead me? And with him and knowing the people, and like, I disagree with you. I mean, like, if it were me, like, I'd retire 10 years early. But I think the whole point is that he is choosing service over self to continue to keep doing something good, because I think you kind of know that you're bulletproof for 10 years if you know how you're going to die.
Yeah.
Right. So you can just go and literally, you know, point blasters at whoever, and you're not going to kill me because I know how I die. So, but that raises the other question. And if you try to help the people that you know you're going to save and try to change their course of action at that point in time, then does it work on the other side of the fence too?
Right.
If you play the odds too often, are they going to catch up with you and you die in year 2 instead of year 10?
Right.
So,
well, and see, and this is a different timeline, right? So, like, because I don't know Pike from the original series, but I know that in the movies he dies in the second movie, you know, at that attack. So I guess
Kirk always took over from Pike.
Okay.
Always.
So that's a constant. But I mean, as far as his death goes, that's just, we're in a different timeline. He dies a different way type thing is what it looks like, which I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm trying to think. I did like the interaction with Spock's pep talk. Like, the first one was kind of shitty, as you would expect it to be. But the second one, I think that he was actually trying to give, I don't even think he was trying to give a pep talk, was just actually speaking from the heart, was a really good pep talk.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the harmonics they use in this, where they figure out the music. It was a little fantastical with the, on the nose.
On the nose.
Yeah. It was a little fantastical with the whole, like I said, I wrote it down. Mahonite was the name of the asteroid. Mahonite, was the name of the asteroid, and it brings life to planets. And I was like, well, okay, I mean, that's getting a little off science and a little more onto, you know, magic, I guess.
I mean, it's on science. If you bang something, you're going to create life.
That's true. That's true. Science does dictate that.
I do think that the more on the nose part was the Kenya song From Earth, with, you know, I mean, like, it being an African-American actor, like how, or I'm not even sure she was American, but how do, like, why? Like, they hold on to the Earth culture references just like they always have in Star Trek, but it felt like this episode, like they did like 4 or 5 of them. Like, that's an Earth song, that's an older song, or that's a Kenya song, or blah, blah, blah.
I will say they at least laid a seed for that in the last episode, in the first episode, because he does mention his time in Kenya in the last episode, and then he gets to the dinner party in this one, which was fun, by the way, the whole prank with the dinner party. But he gets to the dinner party this one, and he finds out she's in Kenya. Just like, okay, there's the connective tissue with that. And I actually kind of like that they laid not that you had to. He could have gone to Kenya and I didn't know about it, and they could have said that, and I would have been fine. but it was cool that you saw him lay at sea, because I was kind of wondering that in the first episode why you even mentioned that. Now you get a little payoff for that.
That's how the episodic thing works here, is that it pays off because they just leave crumbs from certain episodes and then start pulling them all back together.
Yep. I thought that was cool, the prank that they pulled on her, where she told her to put her, getting her in her best dress and the dinner party, and I kind of like that, the whole dinner party thing where he's with his closest crew members, everybody's on the deck with him, and he's basically getting to know you. He's learning about you, which is what you should do if you have these people's lives in your hands, is know these people. So I like that. And once again, you Ross, you mentioned last week the actor they have to play Pike is spot on, and I like him. Like he does. I don't know Pike's attitude or mannerisms beforehand, but I like this guy in this role. He does a good job.
Yeah, he's much better with. I think traditionally Pike is more by the book, knows the codes, regulations, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And even though he is willing to, do something risky, I think that in this show they kind of gave him more risk because of the timeline that he's coming from, because of the events that put him in where he's at now. Mm-hmm. He's able to be a little bit crazier.
Yeah, well, that, knowing that, like you said, you got a 10-year insurance plan right there. You can take risks. So, yeah. Well, so what did you catch of it before you fell asleep? Like, what was the last thing you remember about it, Sarah? You're muted.
I think I got the gist of it. It was basically just the whole, so the Uhura with her storyline, with them trying to figure out, like, going on the comet, and it's just like, okay, well, you want linguistics, you want to learn alien linguistics, hey, this is where you are. Mm-hmm. So I think I got the gist of it. It was just really interesting. From what I know of Uhura, whether it's from the original series or whether it's from the Kelvin timeline, this iteration is really interesting because it's like, okay, they're trying to flesh her out a little bit more than what you knew she was, like, linguistics wise. Mm-hmm. So I'm just really curious. It's like taking, like, these, I guess, OG characters and just kind of like giving you a different, I mean, Spock is Spock. I mean, I don't see how you can, like, differentiate Spock other, like, from the first episode where you're like, oh, Spock, this is the storyline. Okay. Yeah. Hello. You know what I mean? It's like, they're trying to give you, like,
Spock Specker before.
Yeah. So it's trying to give you, like, different iterations. So it's, to me, I think with, like I told you, with Strange New Worlds, it's going to take me a couple of episodes before I can really
get into it,
give a good thought on it, honestly.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have to think about it, because you're taking from the original series. So you're going full, like, previous to, Kirk and Spock and what you know of Uhura. And I'm just curious about, like, what other characters they might throw into it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they're definitely trying to play the Uhura game as a makeup session from the like original series years, where she got basically stepped on for being the female African American actress. And because you notice now it's a predominantly female crew. They keep Spock because he's eccentric, like he's part of the core of the Enterprise crew. They keep give you Pike. But I mean, like, you really think about how many other people are on that bridge, and they're mostly female.
I didn't even think about that until you just said it. But yeah, you're right.
And that's like number one. I mean, because you got number one, you've got Uhura, you've got like the
pilot. I can't remember her name.
Like the two chicks that are, like, up there, like,
the navigator and the pilot.
Yeah.
But you have Uhura isn't even she's still a cadet.
Mm-hmm. This is like super early.
Yeah. So what I think they're really trying to do is really show you that they can do something with her character, given the time and space and the adequate story, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the part that I was not questioning, but just confused about was they replaced her with like a lieutenant.
Mm-hmm.
So the cadet sits on the bridge, and because she's that good, if you're that good, then why are you a cadet?
It's a good point.
You know,
But then also
working
with her
issues.
story, she was saying, well, I wasn't really like gunning for Starfleet because, of her background, saying that, because, I lost my parents and this and like my grandmother, she was doing this. So I'm kind of So I thought it was like really poignant when, Spock made the statement that if you're not all in, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but if you're not all in,
get out.
Step aside and let someone that has been really working for this, let them do it.
He's not wrong.
Absolutely.
He's not wrong by saying that at all. It's like that with any aspect. Like anybody who's in a job or anything like that, it's the same way. If you're not like, let somebody who wants to do it. Like if it's that big of a deal. But it's given her that development. It's you knew that when they go into that in this episode that okay, this is going to be the episode where you start to give her reason to believe why she should be doing it. And of course, she's going to because it's Uhura. You see in the future. I don't know. Like my only experience with that character is Zoe Saldana from before. So of course, this actress does a great job, and I have no problem with this actress. But of course, I prefer Zoe Saldana, as that character.
Well, Nichelle Nichols, I mean, she was pretty much along the lines of, Zoe Saldana too, because I mean, this.
I'm just not familiar with it. This is the thing. I'm sure she did great. Yeah.
But like tall, lean, that kind of thing, and not quite as, I don't know, ethnic. I mean, I don't want to say it's not, but it's just a different. It's just a different iteration, and I'm not saying anything different against the actress or whatnot, but it's like you have, like yourself, Nichelle Nichols.
The time of filming,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
because
it's just
of the date of age.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's I'm not taking anything away from it, but it's just like from what you're used to of seeing Uhura. It's like so you have this one like the original series, then you have this one that's like of the Kelvin timeline, and now you're throwing another one that's of Strangers in Worlds. It's like, the kind of like the face you have in your mindset is changing, and that's the thing about it. So and sometimes it's difficult to kind of follow that character.
Oh yeah.
But what did you guys think about the alien species and the whole comet story as a plot?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it worked for me. It's something that I knew nothing about. They introduced it to me completely in this series, in this episode, and they wrapped it up nicely. Like the whole story worked for me. That's actually leads to one of the only last two notes that I have here. It is with the shepherds. They were talking to him, and they basically said, Pike basically said to him, he's like, we don't interfere with lives of planets that are not, but we also don't let them die. And then the shepherds were like, well, that's interfering. And yet technically he's right. Like that you say you don't interfere, but that means even if they're destined to die, that you're interfering if you stop that, So I mean, really, what are you doing? You're kind of just playing God and doing whatever you really want to do.
It's the Superman complex. If you can, should you?
Yeah.
And so it isn't a matter of stopping fate as much as it is if you have the power, should you have the will to go with that power?
Yeah.
And if you can do it without, like, especially to such a, like, imagine us, even 30 years ago. I mean, still to this day, we sit here and talk about UFO videos and everything else, not understanding, like, what's going on. But, like, if someone else is out there trying to make sure that we stay alive, of course we're grateful.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, to continue existence, of course that species is grateful. So you're right, and that brings up that constant conundrum. Like, do you have that conversation with the species, or do you just play God?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was just something that they said, and I was like, well, I mean, he raised a really good point. But, obviously from Picard, you can tell that butterflies and changing futures and everything else is not really, it's not, what is it? Directive 1 or Prime Directive 1, whatever. Yeah. So, like, it's not their thing, but. Or they say it is, but it's not.
Oh God, GO1, whatever they call that, government order cut. Anyway, yeah,
General Order 1 or something. No, I guess
General
General
Order
Order
1.
1's in the real army, but
No, that's what they call it though.
I thought they called it too. Okay.
Yeah, before they called it the Prime Directive.
The only other note I have is there's the one scene. Okay, there's they get energized to the comet, right, and they have these spacesuits on. And like for some reason, the men's spacesuits are blue and the women's are red. It would have been so much cooler if they all had different colors. It would have been like a damn Power Ranger scene walking out. I wanted a pink and a yellow and a red and a blue. It would look so awesome.
You're only
Well,
gonna
was
get
it
like 3 or
for-
4 colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, was it for rank? I mean, not rank, but like
No,
for
filled.
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I guess it's just I just noticed that both the females are red and both the males are blue, and I was like, maybe it's just size. You know,
Well, here's
I
the
don't know.
thing: colors in Star Trek are always the same, but the meanings behind those colors change.
Red, yellow, blue.
That's the
right?
part that always screws with me.
Yeah.
Because it's like red is like engineering and this, and then like blue is like science and this, and then a lot of times like white is mostly with medical, but blue is also medical. And then you talk about
Well,
like
blue
gold,
is science. Blue is science.
which is
Red
also
is
medical.
command,
yeah.
and gold is like engineering
But see, that
or
flops.
security.
I was
The
saying,
gold and red
doesn't
flop.
Pike wear a gold uniform though?
The gold and red flop
Yeah,
Mhm.
between different shows.
that's weird. Interesting. Okay.
But yes.
That was all the notes I had for it. I mean, you know, it's more difficult to hit some main points like plot points in like this episodic series, because when you're following it through a main storyline like something like Halo, like a lot of the plot points are stretched out to me. You know, with this, like I said, it's a more contained story. Like what I see next week may only have like 1 or 2 little references from last week, so the plot is a lot different to lay out and analyze like that. But
That's why every single time I take notes, I always keep the notes until at least the very end. Because if I have to go back, I need to know what it is I'm talking about.
yeah, there you go. But yeah, that was all I really had for that. I mean, I'm really enjoying the show. Sarah, I hope that it catches you and you.
Well,
really
that's what I'm
start to
saying. I
enjoy
mean, I'm enjoying it, but like I said, since it's episodic, it's really difficult to really
it's a change. Yeah.
yeah. And
Big
I mean,
change.
I enjoy it. I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, it's Star Trek. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I'm not gonna say anything to the negative, obviously.
It just hasn't blown you away yet. You just haven't gotten used to it. But it's only episode 2.
You'll see it pieced together by 5 or 7.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. It's just it's difficult to, you know, since it is episodic. It's like just taking, you know, like if you start Next Generation. I mean, what would be your, you know, thoughts within like the first 2 or 3 episodes?
Right. Yeah, I get that.
So I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I like it. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with like the characters. You know, because like I said, you've already seen, you know, Pike. I know who Pike is. Now I know who Spock is. Now you introduced Uhura. Now you're talking about Kirk, which is, you know, our Kirk's like brother. So, and I think you're gonna like actually meet Kirk the end of this season, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just really curious to see how it's. I just want to see how it evolves. Let's put it that way. I mean, I enjoyed it. I like Pike. I think he's fantastic. Now, number 1, I'm still on the fence about her because I still feel like she's kind of like a wooden character. I don't really see
I always get that with her though. Rebecca Romaine always gives me that.
Even
feeling.
her as Mystique. I'm like, you know, loosen up a little bit, lady. I mean, it's just
yeah, you're a
I
bunch
think
of
she's
clay.
about the only one that's really kind of throwing me off. Now,
I didn't
Ethan
realize that was
Peck
Rebecca
as
Romaine. Dude,
Yeah.
said that. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, didn't even realize that.
now Ethan Peck as Spock, I love him. I think he's fantastic. I mean, he's the grandson of Gregory Peck, which I think I remember watching the Horatio
What a name.
Hornblower. Yeah, I'm like, Gregory Peck was like, oh my God, he was like just the elite of Hollywood. So now seeing his grandson, because I'm like, he reminds me of somebody. So when I saw who he was, I was like, son of a bitch. Even after like 2 generations, I'm like, damn, that's pretty strong.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, but I'm used to him being kind of like with the beard and, you know, the kind of thing from
Right.
Discovery. So it's really interesting. But, you know, with Spock, I mean, there's not too much that you can, you know, go wrong with that.
Right.
But,
I think what you're saying there is probably my biggest question too, is how it's going to play out, because now I know I have my Star Trek knowledge is a little bit better, and now we know there's this 10 years thing. It's going to be kind of a backlying story. If you go 2 or 3 seasons with this show, does it expand that entire 10 years? By season 2, is Pike gone and do we get Kirk? And if that's the case, is it 10 years between the season 1 and season 2? Like, I'm wondering how the timeline's going to work, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, if it's 4 seasons, do we get 10 years spread out of 4 seasons? At the end of it, it's Kirk's the moment where he either dies or does something different and not die. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But I guess
see, that's also interesting too, because if you ever watch like the original series, it's like you do see Pike's endgame, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So now I'm just, like I said, it's curious since you're taking like a new iteration of it where you're starting from here instead of here to see how that goes. I mean, there's still a storyline between the two.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I don't see this show going past 3 seasons. And I only say that because I think that it's definitely a good start. And as much as it is, what is this? Is Discovery on its 4th season?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, as much as like Discovery was new, and this does tell like a original series story,
Mhm.
I just don't know if they would keep carrying it. I feel like Discovery kind of got they were able to tell a big enough story to give it more time, to give it another season, to tell a new story. And I feel like this one, you're not going to get Kirk. And if you do, you're going to get Kirk, but you're not going to get him in any serious role until we reach, I say serious, but you're not going to see him get anywhere near being captain until we get to the end of this show.
Right.
If they do it. And I just don't know if I can see it going for a real long run. I'm not sure that you can have, and not because of Pike dying, just because I don't think you can do it for a story.
Right. I get that. Well, time will tell, and I guess it's based on probably how successful it is, and based on the first 2 episodes of this, it's really, really successful so far amongst the people. People are liking it. So,
Yep.
we will find out. Well, all right, let's go on to Halo then. Penultimate this week, correct?
That's it.
Really, really exciting. I know I hadn't watched it, and today Sarah texted in the chat like, can't wait to talk about Halo, and I was like, okay, cool. That means either something really big happens or it's a good episode. This episode blew me away. Like, I would say the last like 20 minutes of this episode, every single scene, I'm like, oh my gosh, what happens next? What are they going to do next? What's going on here? Like, it kept me guessing, and so much happened in the last 20 minutes. It completely turned everything on that Halo upside down. So I loved it. I got done watching the episode. It's the best episode of this show I've seen so far. To this point should be. It's the penultimate. Uh-oh. Sarah's not shaking her head. Maybe she's not agreeing with me. I loved this episode. There's some decisions they made that I'm not, I don't know how they came to this point, but I don't know. Maybe for me, because I said before that I thought that Makee was going to end up wanting to be human again, and I don't care which day. And she was in this episode until all this shit happened. She was totally on the side of being human again, and
that's the story.
Right,
you knew it was going to happen.
I just thought it was cool the way they did that. So, Sarah, you had some looks when I was saying that. I take it you don't feel the same way? You didn't love this episode as much?
I'm not saying I didn't, but there were like some cringy ass shit in this because I'm like, oh, this is making me uncomfortable.
Okay, I'll agree with you on some of that. Yeah.
Because I'm like, but then again, I'm like, are we automatically supposed to assume some shit has happened that we haven't seen?
It did feel like there should have been time between the last episode and this one.
Because it's like,
you
had the episode before the last one, and then you had the previous episode that had absolutely nothing to do with Master Chief.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like, it kind of took an episode unto itself. It just took a slice into itself. Then you're going to jump into this, and I'm thinking, did I miss something? Did I think like one time they touching the artifact, like, oh my God, we're freaking soulmates?
That was the part that I was saying I don't necessarily know if I agree with. The romantic part between those two was weird.
That was some cringy ass shit. I
think they had to do it to give them that bond and that connection, though.
The connection, yeah.
But
I don't think it's
was
romance as much as it is. I mean, like, yeah, I know what they did, but I don't think it's like it was geared towards
a romantic connection. It was just like a connection unto itself.
Yeah, you're taking two like capital V virgins here. I mean,
yeah, no, you're right.
Thank you.
He had the pill in him, and she came from like a totally different world. So I mean, like it was completely different.
I think the one scene where I was like, I completely feel that was that one soldier. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Because he needs to calm the fuck down.
I can understand his mindset, though. If a bunch of your friends just got killed by these guys who came down and then she just appeared, I could somewhat understand his mindset.
Yeah, but still, I mean, there still has to be some. You got to pull your shit back.
Oh yeah, you definitely
because
need to do your job.
Yeah. I mean, and I get, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, with Miranda, with what she's, her place in this whole insanity with Halsey, and who's the her husband, that's like the other fella. Yeah. So Jacob. Like between these two, because they're fighting each other, and then you got Miranda stuck in the center, and she's been given this, trying to deal with the linguistics and, figuring all this out. She's like, oh my God, that's her voice. I'm like, yeah, but then automatically, like I said, it's human nature to attack anything that you feel like that's a threat. But then again, with McKee talking with Master Chief, well, I don't even consider him Master Chief at that point. That's John.
Right.
That's not Master Chief.
I can get that.
Because I think
once John and John is down to clown.
Yeah, because once he popped that little capsule out of his spine, I think he stopped being Master Chief. Honestly,
yeah. Well,
because,
I'm no longer a number.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. He started feeling emotion.
Yeah,
and stuff that he didn't have before. Yeah.
It's the same thing with Kai. With the two that took her out. I'm thinking, damn it. That chick is still strong as hell too. I don't think I want to, fight her.
She is a bruiser. I mean, like I thought, like the weightlifting scene was fun, but then you turn around and like when you see her cuffed to that concrete thing, I'm like, oh, she is straight up breaking that. Just wait.
Yeah.
And of course, she breaks it.
But dude, those two shots she took at the face, holy crap, man!
I
You get blindsided twice like that. I thought they did too. I was like, holy crap, they just killed off Kai. I was like, damn, that's.
I can totally understand how you can make a Spartan more powerful. I don't understand how you make them less weak. If you get what I'm saying, like anyone that takes like punches in the face, like you're gonna get some sort of like brain trauma, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
How do you can't prevent that? You can teach someone to hit harder. You can't teach the brain to airbag itself.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I just thought the whole like third act, like it was just so cool how everything played out, and like we'd mentioned before that Ross, you said you didn't think it was romantic between him and the McKee. And they even mentioned, Cortana even says, for the first time he doesn't feel alone in the universe. And I'm sure she was feeling the same way, and that was that connection they had.
Yeah, just but Cortana was kind of like. She was kind of
she was uncomfortable.
She's a voyeur. Yeah.
I'm in your head. So I'm feeling.
She was uncomfortable. She wasn't turning away. I'll tell you that. She was making herself watch it.
She's got a vested interest in Master Chief or John or whomever, because she's attached to him. So it's like she experiences what he experiences. So, but for her to like basically take his side versus Halsey's side, I'm like,
yeah. Well, and speaking of Halsey, y'all were right. Halsey is definitely the villain. Like you are literally at a point where this war can end right now. You're on the brink of this war ending right effing now, and you choose not to. Like that's effing crazy, man. Like this woman is nuts, and she even says it in here. I would give up anything for it. It's like, wow.
You've already sacrificed your marriage. You sacrifice a relationship with your one and only child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're literally your career. I'm like, what is there left?
Yeah, I just couldn't believe, like, I kind of figured Halsey was going to be bad at the end, but now it's like she's just like full on evil.
She's like desperate.
Like she's almost worse than the Covenant is,
Yeah.
causing more damage. You know,
Well, you know, science is a hell of a drug.
it is.
Well, and then speaking of the Covenant, he's just like, even when McKee asked John, okay, you get the halo, you take out the covenant, then what? Oh, I don't know. We'll just see what happens.
I mean, that would have been
Hell
the
kind
only
of
answer you
answers
have.
that.
I mean, it's the only real answer you have. You know, like what's next after that? You know, but I think that was the flip side. That was him. That was her seeing the flip side of the coin from him, because like you just heard Halsey talk about how humans couldn't be trusted with it. Now he's saying the Covenant can't be trusted with it, and it's like, well, who can?
Yep.
What about when she like pulled her? Because you know she had like.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And I thought she had him on all her fingers.
No, she.
No, I thought it was just the one.
Oh, was it? Okay. I thought
Oh,
it
dude,
was on all
she
her
snatched
fingers.
that thing out. I'm like, ooh, ooh, it's like teeth and nails. I can't touch those. Oh my God.
Although I would
Ugh.
like to have one of those. That was a
for
pretty
sure.
cool ass.
Well, and then you know the way she was like putting her hand across his throat, because you know he's like so vulnerable. You know, just laying there like, oh, I'm thinking, dude, you just got maybe the first time you got it off. I don't know. Because I'm like, and I think that's one of the reasons, like, I don't want to see this, because it's like, you know, like first times, I don't want to see this.
Yeah.
This is like cringy.
And that's what I mean. Like the whole that part of the story, while it made sense to be in there to show that connection, did seem a little. It was very contrived.
I don't feel like they need to go down that road.
Where do you get this luxurious room with a bed and all that stuff in it? Like, why are y'all both staying in there?
Somebody's room just randomly. It's like,
right.
I'm just gonna stay. It's like
that was where I was like, I don't. But I get it for the story. It's just like that was the one thing that I was like, I don't really understand this. But it was basically everything after that for me was just amazing, because like the end after that sex scene, the little brown chicken, brown cow, the two super virgins, it gets into the third act, and the third act is where everything comes into place, and it's just crazy how I feel like from where you were at in the beginning of this episode, you're in a completely different spot at the end of it.
But it just I didn't feel that though, because I'm like, I just feel like there should have been more between here and that point, to where I felt like, you know, with her, you know, ripping off the fingernail with whatever the hell it was, because to me that was kind of her, you know, disconnecting from the Covenant at that point in time. But I'm like, dude, lady, there's got to be more than just that, because it's going to take more than just that just to make me change my whole thought process on something I've been indoctrinated with ever since I was like a child.
You're right, but I think they do a good job. They've kind of hinted at it a little bit in the last like 2 or 3 episodes, where you can see her kind of being, well, I guess she's only been 2 in this like this. You can kind of see her amazement at what she's seeing. Imagine you enjoyed your life as a child and you remember these childhood stories. Then you're ripped from that childhood, and your entire life growing up, you're taught that childhood you had was evil. Then the one time you get to actually see this, you realize, oh, it's not that bad. It's just like I read in the books, and wow, these people are like me, blah, blah. I could see her wanting to change.
Especially if John did his job right.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, do you got to rock her world one night in order for it to, like, hit her over the head with it? You know what I mean? I'm like, that's just too much for me to.
Well, they say the first cut's the deepest.
That's right. Right. But I get what you're saying. It was a little rushed, but I can see. I mean, maybe they should have cut out that whole Quan story in the last episode and just expanded this one into 2.
They could have told an A and B story for 2 episodes and left you a cliffhanger on both of those stories in the last episode, to turn around in this one to bring them together to where they need to be for episode 9, for the finale.
That's a fair point.
I think that you get enough of the Halsey trying to scheme in episode 6 for it to carry over and tell just enough of a story to get them to the point. If you would have cliffhung on the lovemaking scene in the last episode on the Reach side and not the what's the other planet called? From where Quan's from?
Magical.
Yeah, Madrigal. If you would have cliffhung there, and then like her ripping the fingernail off or whatever the case may be, and then steamroll into the other side of the plot to where it's like, oh no, these are people. The people are evil. Humans are evil.
Mm-hmm.
That would have transitioned perfectly. I don't know how you would have done it with Quan. I guess you would have left her pinned down and
but
then
that
have.
character, for me, I'm like, what value are you giving to the story? I'm still not there.
It's yet to be seen, and that's why I think that this show was renewed automatically for the second season, sight unseen by the public.
Because damn it, I'm about to see the real deal Halo come next episode.
I'm still questioning what the actual Halo.
I'm gonna fight somebody because it's like you're seeing this in.
Yes and no.
I mean, it's not going to break the show for me. The show's been good enough that no matter what, I'm going to watch the second season, and I'm still extremely happy with this penultimate. So, like, I'm on cloud 9 with this thing right now. But I get what you're saying. You have some expectations of this that you want to see. So,
it's like I love the battle scenes. I love that because obviously it's giving a homage to the game. But when you're at hey, I've seen a lot of shit, but for me to see that particular scene, I'm like, this is cringy as shit because I'm like, what the fuck are y'all trying to? You're like fast forwarding, and I don't. It's like you're fast forwarding, and there's nothing to fast forward.
Right. So what's more cringy, the Top Gun brown chicken brown cow, or the Halo brown chicken?
The Halo.
Yeah.
At least the Top Gun is more organic. This one, it just felt weird. I'm just like, because I don't know,
they touched tips for the first time since they realized they had tips to touch. I mean, like, it's literally.
It's like you're trying to fast forward a relationship where it's like, okay, if you're supposed to be so in sync with each other, I don't feel like that would have been the best situation to fast forward. If that makes sense.
I can only argue the one fact that both of them came from a zero past.
I get that.
And then not only that, they turned around and found each other in this mystical realm that no one else in life has
but have you got to scrog to get to that point? I mean, seriously.
I mean, people have one night stands all the time.
Yeah, but this is beyond this is supposed to let you know it's beyond a one night stand. It's like they're half.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, I get what you're saying. You're absolutely right. It's not. It doesn't seem nearly as organic. I mean, especially, and I think where they messed up is where they started calling it his girlfriend. And maybe that was just.
But honestly, that's the thing I thought about too. I was like, "Ooh, Master Chief got a girlfriend." And then they're like, "Oh, his girlfriend." I'm like, "Oh, seriously?" I'm like,
yeah, that
I was kind of like being.
I was like, they just hooked up. Everybody's not going to know that they're, boyfriend and girlfriend. So,
I thought that was kind of, yeah. So I mean, I feel like they probably could have elevated the relationship without having to go to that point.
Right.
Yeah, because they kind of did that, like in the beginning. Right, they started with him taking her out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all it took for them to go and
that's what I'm saying. Is that all it took? Because just what was the general? She's like, "Oh, you're just gonna just stroll through the park and everything's just like copacetic." I mean,
fuck yeah, I am. Cherry blossoms, bro. Trying to smash.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know,
it's a fair argument.
If there was more time that had passed, or where maybe you had more touchy where you were on the Halo or whatever the hell's going on, whatever, they mystical shit, whatever they're trying to figure out. But I'm like, oh, so it takes the fact of you getting physical in that aspect to really just, pop the cherry, so to speak.
Yeah. Mind floating on endorphins,
Well, things that didn't take too long to happen. As soon as Halsey said Z protocol, fucking Riz and Vanity
it's like Order 66,
in line.
Oh yeah,
yes,
it's like Order 66.
Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
That's the exact same thing I thought.
Yes, I was just amazed because, how do you do that with human conditioning and programming? It's It's amazing.
But my question is, what the hell have they done to the Spartans? I mean, you look at John, Master Chief, and he's got all these scars. I'm like, what in the hell did you do to this guy?
Yeah, I mean,
That-
especially with
because-
Mark 6 million armor, I feel like
That's what I'm
he'd be
saying, because
protected.
if you look at Kai and the other two, was it Vanek?
Riz and Vanek.
Yeah. I'm like, what kind of scars do they have?
Well, you got to remember they're battle tested, and this is something that he has, that Mark 6 Mjolnir armor or whatever now, but maybe he didn't throughout the whole process of him training, and those are just battle scars from him
Those
training. You know?
Well-
dude, those are not battle scars. Those are too precise to be battle scars.
True.
Look at
They
Soren.
were symmetrical. Yeah,
Soren not only had the same type of armor, but
it grew with him. Sorry.
but his arm, got totally screwed up during training. Because I mean, definitely they weren't, kid combatants at that point. They were still in training. So it's interesting to see how. I mean, I totally get, like, if you get blasted wide open by something, then yeah, you need a good scar to get in there and actually repair. However, I do feel like that if you can program people at that point, you have some pretty good stuff that can, seam seal all those scars pretty well.
But think about the opening sequence. It shows those scars.
Yeah.
That is precise. That's not. They did something to that dude. They did something to all those Spartans.
Yeah.
They conditioned, because think about how scrawny of a kid he was. And now he's like, I mean, I know it's an actor. I get that. But it's still the thought process of, like even Halsey said, he's like, it wasn't strongest, wasn't the fastest. But he became Master Chief to where he was the strongest. He was the fastest.
Mhm.
Like, what the hell did you do to this guy? You're already implanting the Spartans with.
Pump you up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, here you are, you've got, Master Chief and Kai, they've already popped out their capsules. I'm like, what the hell else is in their bodies?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's-
also implanted Master Chief with freaking Cortana. That shit's still crazy to me. It's like cracking an egg and like just feeding it to you. I mean, that's nuts.
and how about Cortana too? Like making the decision on this one to do the right thing. And I guess we find out that the entire plan all along was for her basically to inhibit his body and her be Master Chief. I was like, wow, that's
It's like to take over
Interesting.
his consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that
that's very,
feeling
very
from the
interesting.
beginning as soon as they brought her in, though, because they're like, Halsey actually said, I think it was in episode 2, whenever that put in, that like you only have limited access now. Like once we work through and understand how you two work together, I'll give you full access.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. A good lie to be
But
able
with
to tell a good lie
Cortana-
later.
And Master Chief, they've always been kind of like working on one-on-one. One's not over the other.
Yeah.
It's like in tandem.
Which is what's going to be like the downfall of that plan, is that Halsey's plan is not going to come together because something will happen, right?
Well, her plan involved
What's up
Cortana
with,
being.
with Halsey's little minion over there? He's the little Irish dude. I'm like, what's up with this
Oh,
stuff?
Dude, he's just in love with her. He'll do
No
whatever she wants.
shit,
Remember, he's
I'm
trying to
like,
make out with her.
dude.
With the
The
phone.
one who called bitch. He
Yeah.
definitely
I don't even
started to
remember
fall
his
apart.
name.
She's not supposed to do that.
Yeah, that guy's weird, man. But I guess, I mean, he does a good job playing the role. He's supposed to be weird. He's definitely creepy. I don't wish people to die, but I kind of wouldn't mind if that guy gets, what's coming to him.
Get him like a little spike through like the chest or like a
No,
let
he
him
needs
get like
the
a
same treatment that John got from Riz and Vanek. He needs to get the
which
shit
is like
beat
beat
out
his
of him.
face
Yeah.
in.
Yes.
I'm thinking like Wash from like Serenity, just right through it.
Yeah.
Just
take him
one
right
good.
out. Yeah, just there you go. Skewer that bastard.
Are you not a Wash fan?
I loved Wash. It sucked the way he went out, but for this dude, I'm all about it.
Give it to him.
I'm all about it.
Hey, I
Finger to
love
the
that
throat means
Spartan
death
fight.
if she still had her blade.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I love that Spartan fight scene though, and like the whole time I was watching, I was like, "Kai's gonna come in at the end and save him. Kai's gonna come in at the end and save him. Like it's got to be what happens. It's got to be what happens. That's why they showed her getting out. It's got to be what
But
happens."
I'm gonna tell you, it speaks a lot to like the way the Spartans, because it's like they're programmed, and Vanek, he's a motherfucker.
Yeah, he is. I wouldn't want to mess with him though. Damn, I
I
wouldn't
mean,
mess with that guy.
That guy, I mean, he's like straight up programmed. But then you have, and who was the other one?
Riz. Riz
Riz.
and Fanuc, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, you got Riz. It's like he's like Riz, it's me, and she kind of held back a little bit because I'm thinking, and obviously Kai, since she's on Master Chief's side because it's like even from the get go, Kyle's like, well, what about Master Chief? Why? And then Vander's like, I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. Riz is like a damn freaking spider monkey jumping all everything. She's got like the backpack with the antennas and stuff. I'm like, damn, lady, you're just like all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's interesting how you see we are now in episode 8 of 9, and you have seen the transition from the 4 Spartans to being John down and then Kai down, and now you have Riz wavering.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's showing the lack of dependence turning into independence on their behalf. So I find that little subplot pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then like Vanek, he's like just totally 100%, dead on.
Yep.
Green
Spartan boner.
I think that we eventually see these 4 together again fighting, but do you think we see it by the end of this season? The 4 of them back on the same team? We only got 1 episode left.
I don't know, dude.
A lot
I
has
really
to happen,
don't know
right?
which way it's going to go now. I mean, because you've got McKee where she was leaning towards humanity, and of course then you had the douchebag that had like put the freaking electric stick to her, like the cattle prod to her, and she's like, well, I guess nothing's changed because everybody else is like, oh, that kind of thing. And then John got his ass beat, and I was like, what else? But darkest before dawn.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're in the age to where you can come out with a season of a show and it serves as a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Because a pilot to a show used to mean you're going to spend money on it to create a season, right? And now with the streaming wars and like the advancement where we're at now, like you can make a pilot of a show, but really that first season is a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
That first season is a make it or break it. And Netflix has the lowest bar possible, right? So like if they don't like the first few numbers in the first 5 days, and axed. But this show proved itself pretty much when they said they were going to re it up for, I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't have it all in front of me for season 2 and 3, but just season 2.
It needs a second season. No,
yeah.
Regardless, it needs a second season.
Greg.
Because I'm like, it's got to. There's no way in hell it's going to wrap up episode 9. There's no way in hell.
That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Do you think that they just went ahead and said, okay, this story they're telling is at least a 2-season story? So
Absolutely.
they gave it the second season before the first season even dropped. So
absolutely.
Like I think it was a plan all along. So basically what we're saying is we're going to get a big cliffhanger next week. You think?
I think it's quite possible. I don't know how big it will be, but I definitely think that they're going to leave you somewhere. And that's why I say that, like, to your point, Sarah, if you don't see the halo, where's it going to put you at?
I feel like they're going to find it.
With
and
like
it's going to be like,
99
okay,
questions.
here we are. We're here. And then
cut the black. Yeah.
Be interesting.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have what is that? What 45? Let's say 45, 50 minutes.
Somewhere there, yeah.
So you have that much time to where.
What did I just watch? I just finished Ozarks, and that last season, or that last episode was like 70 minutes.
What a great show!
Yeah.
What a great show. Yeah,
totally.
I mean,
what a great think show. About it. It's like however long, I don't even know how long episodes are, honestly, because I'm like.
You're about right. They're about 45 to 50 minutes. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, okay, McKee and John have this link. So let's say she pieces out and takes everybody down because she's going to take somebody out.
Well, she's definitely got some sort of. That's a really mean
now
joke.
She's like,
she definitely has some sort of virus. I mean, she was able to take down the whole other ship, so she's got something that's working with her, whether or not it's.
But that's the thing about it, because now she put her hand on the artifacts, and now she totally has control of that. So whatever the hell that shit happens, because now it's like you drop John in there on the Halo and saying, "Oh, sorry, boo, but your people suck, or my people suck, and I'm not dealing with this shit because y'all suck. And now, peace out. I'm going to go do my own thing with, the covenant.
Yeah.
Because y'all suck.
Yep.
Y'all do suck because, I mean, either.
Yeah, it was all because of that guy, the Star-Lord guy, the stupid guard that did the one thing that screwed up,
Asshole.
that, screwed everything up. Yeah. Call him Star-Lord. He Star-Lord it.
No.
Quilled it. He quilled
No.
it. That's what I'm going to start saying. He quilled it.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Don't you talk about Star-Lord, damn it. I'll fight you on that.
I love him, but, he totally, in-game wouldn't even been a movie. If he would have just kept his mouth shut for 2 more seconds.
But the point is, it's like, I just feel like that she's going to do something. He's going to end up doing something, and it's going to end up on the Halo where they're going to end up there. It's going to end their Halo. It's real. Cut to black.
Let's see. I mean, it's a very good possibility.
If not, I'm mad because I'm like, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see you own it. I want to see the real deal.
Like I said, I'm still having a hard time understanding what the Halo is. Like, from what it sounds like, it's something you stand on.
It's like a.
Because from what I'm taking from what they're saying, it's almost like an alternate plane, like you almost like heaven or
it's like some type of weapon.
Realm.
It's some. I don't want to say it's a weapon, but like the way the way Vicky was describing it is, the worthy would make it there, and then like the unworthy would be cleansed. I'm like, what do you mean by cleanse? Are we like just gonna just wipe it out like fire, brimstone, that kind of shit?
Yeah.
And what makes you worthy? Do I need like 3 out of 5 stars on Yelp?
Yeah, it's like, do I need to be like, you're my Lord and Savior? Save my soul?
Bring heroin.
What do I do?
Balance the scales, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think in like the Halo lore, I think Halo the actual thing is some, like I said, it's some kind of weapon that you use, but I'm not absolutely sure because the only thing I've ever seen in like especially gameplay is you're on like this planet type thing, and then it's like you look and you just see like this Halo, which is like a mechanical thing that's like around. So I'm not quite sure, honestly.
We're gonna find out. I'll tell you that. We're gonna find out. It'll be
yeah. But I just feel like it's gonna get us to that point. It's like it's gonna get you. It's almost gonna get you there. Then it's gonna be like, no, you're gonna have to wait till the next season.
I'm okay with that. Knowing there's a second season, I'm okay with that. I walked into this knowing there was 2 seasons, so at least 2 seasons. So I was like, okay, I can live with that. So because the first season's been good enough for me. Well, was there anything else y'all wanted to point out about this episode? I thought they nailed the penultimate. I hope that it doesn't set me up for a disappointing finale. Huh?
I was glad there was no Quan.
Yes, I was.
I'm fine with no Quan.
I'm just not interested in the story, man.
I don't get the value in that storyline. No. I don't get the value.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that it hasn't shown its face yet, and I do feel like it's too super disconnected for it in the first season. But
they're laying bricks. They're laying groundwork.
I don't know. Like, I'm interested to see what next week's finale is going to do, and then how you guys are going to perceive that character.
It's a good point.
I'm not anti-Quan. Like, I don't hate Quan.
Hopefully it'll bridge something. I mean, I can almost see it, but then again, I'm like, well, if you took it out of this, I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, I mean, and if they do that, if they connect
take away from like my main story that I'm kind of following.
Yeah, if they connect it, I'm cool with that. Like, I just want some kind of connections, like you said. I feel like I know kind of where it's going because they've kind of given this whole your line was for a different reason, and we don't know exactly what that reason is yet. And maybe now we're dealing with ancient stuff with the Halo. Like, maybe this is all connected somehow. But I just need to see it. When I see it, if they do a good job with it, cool.
Maybe she gets Master Chief too. Maybe Quan gets Master Chief to the Halo.
Maybe.
I did like the like. Because of Star Wars, I'm going to call them blaster doors, but the doors to like one of the, I guess, shuttle entrances or wherever they dock or whatever it is, when they were on Reach in the little marine area, it actually said portal on it. And so like all the little subtleties that all of these episodes pay homage to the game for, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Even though I don't know them all, I can piece them together because it seems...
It's still Reach. It's still Reach.
Yeah.
it's still like a super reach.
Yeah.
Believe you me, because Brian tells me, he's like, haven't seen it, but I've been keeping up with it. I'm like, how you been keeping up with it? He's like, I was like, do you know what happened in this past episode? He's
So
like,
you're gonna spoil everything for yourself. He'll watch
dude,
it.
I'm telling you, he is not gonna watch it. He is like absolute 100% against it.
He's gonna watch all the YouTube videos, but not watch the actual show.
Right.
I don't know. I'm like, because I was like, well, dude, I saw the Needler, I saw the Halo, there's this like, the fight scene, it looks like, gameplay, you got Warhog, you got all this good shit. But focusing on like, I don't do it.
But
shit's
sweet.
Even if he watches it ironically, I think he would.
Well, honestly, I think after this last episode, depending on how it goes, I might have to go back and rewatch everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to connect at some point, some form or fashion.
I think it will.
Not, I don't know.
I think it will. Like I said, they still got. I think that we're getting a whole second season that continues this story on. I don't think we're at a point where the story's about to end.
Well, I get the point that it's taking liberties with the game story, because I mean, honestly, it's like you really can't do too much if you like just base it on gameplay, because there's only so far you can get to go. So you've got to add certain elements to it, and I'm like, just take it for like the storyline. And like, yeah, just if you see the cool things that you've seen in like gameplay, take it. I mean,
right?
It's like any other type of iteration of any other type of gameplay. I mean, it's like Mortal Kombat.
Street Fighter.
That's what I'm saying. Like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. I'm like, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, you've got to you've got to have some creative liberties with it to create a story. Because honestly, it's like you're fighting one-on-one. How much story do you have right there?
Right. And with this especially, the fortunate thing you have about it is the gameplay is a story. So like you have some kind of story in there. With games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, they were just fighting games. Like I know they have story too, but I don't think
you got to add more to it, to the character.
Yeah.
You got to add more character story.
Right. When those games came out, those were games when we were kids. Like you didn't have the internet to go through and read all these stories of these background characters. And they were there and you could figure it out and you could
find books.
Yeah, but most people wouldn't. Now, I can go online, I can find anything out about Halo I want to.
No. Now we have Fortnite and they just take things from the shit that we love.
They did a Fortnite movie. Where are you going to start on that one?
No, they're making a Fortnite movie. Jason Momoa's in it.
Are you for real?
That's Minecraft.
Minecraft, that's right. Yeah, Minecraft.
Could you imagine them making a Fortnite movie?
No. And actually, I can't. It's Free Guy is what it is.
No, dude. I don't even know when my kid played Fortnite, he didn't play the base characters. He got all the damn skins and shit. So
I just saw the skin of Doctor Strange holding a lightsaber. Like
that ain't right.
No.
I mean, to be fair, we are on a show where we talk about blend everything together. So I mean,
dude, there's some blends you don't do though. That just don't. No. When
if you had a phaser in one hand and a lightsaber in the other, I could see. I'd be like, no, that doesn't work. But I get it.
That's a bridge too far.
Right. That's the line you don't cross.
But I mean, could you imagine making a Fortnite movie? I mean, seriously, think about that for a minute.
I mean, look, I played the adult version of Fortnite, which was the Call of Duty, the one where we went to the island. I don't even know what it was called. But it's the adult version of Fortnite. I played that and I liked it, so I imagined Fortnite could be fun.
No. If think about just Fortnite, not the adult version, just Fortnite. Like when you go to Target and you look at like the characters they have, like the figures, I'm like, I don't even know who the hell these.
Yeah,
I might know who. What's the cat face one? I know that one, and then you have like there might be three I can think of. I mean, I can't think off the top of my head.
I gave up giving a crap about any of it the moment they started introducing Jason and Predator into Mortal Kombat, and I was like, I'm done. Like because that's now where all the kids know where these characters come from. Like I'm over it. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
You guys are done. Stop making video games.
That's what I'm saying. If you're taking Fortnite, just take all the extra skins out of it. It's just straight up characters. What in the hell kind of movie would you come up with? What are you gonna like sitting there like build shit to just crawl all over and then tear it down? I mean,
and that break dance on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So could you imagine? So here you are. You have Halo. Halo does have a pretty straightforward storyline. But the fact of the matter, if they had waited to probably episode 2 or 3 to take his helmet off, I think anybody that follows or plays Halo, I think would have been cool with it.
Yeah, that might have been a premature move for him.
Instead of like the first episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I sort of get it. But I'm like, you could at least wait until like episode 2 or 3.
I mean, it was the first episode. Everybody blows their load a little early in the first, you know. I mean,
Well, they just sprayed all over everywhere on that one.
That's right.
Strange New Worlds really pointed the conversation of that first episode directly to the fact that they had to address the problem that they created in Discovery.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Right, that makes sense. And so when you have a bunch of these shows that turn around and say, look, we got to get this out and we got to do it now. I'm not sure that Halo John showing his face was necessary, but at the same time,
I don't think
like,
it was. I think they could have waited at least to the end of the second episode. At least.
It bothered me at first, but then, you know, we raised the good points of he's a good actor and I need to see the emotion on his face to get the character really well. So
what freaking emotion have you seen?
I mean, I'm talking about whenever he removed the pill.
Confusion.
Discovering all the. You know.
I'm sorry. I was like.
But imagine that in a helmet. Like, even if you didn't like it with his face, imagine that in a helmet. Like, he's just so much.
This cat is bow-legged as hell,
it took too long for them to show his face.
Yeah.
I'm like, and this cat he's like stressing me every time you see him walk. He's bow-legged as hell. I'm like, oh my god!
Glad you're looking at those lower regions.
Yeah,
it's like this every time he walks. I'm like, oh my gosh,
sure
he's stressing me out.
She's like, you're bow-legged as hell, dude. Get out of my bed. Come on, I'm just kidding.
Well, apparently he must not made her too bow-legged because she was just like, oh, I'm gonna rip this out of my finger.
It was his first time. Give him a little room. I'm sure he'll get better. Well, he probably won't, not with her.
That's a wrap, folks.
Anyway, is there anything else y'all wanted to say about Halo? We are almost finished with this series. Finale next week, so we'll see how well it does.
I'm really curious. I'm invested. I'm 100% invested, even though I have my issues, but I'm 100% invested.
There, that's where we want to be.
Qualms and questions.
Well, it is late.
Bow-legged tail, everything.
A bow-legged Master Chief, huh? You didn't even write anything either. All right, it's after midnight here. Let's wrap this up, y'all. Awesome mashup show. Got to talk about Top Gun. Got to talk about some news. Got to talk about our shows. We got to figure out what else we're going to be covering. We're going to start doing some movies, some retros or whatever until Obi-Wan comes out, or we're just going to have one show on the docket. So,
well, if you want to go ahead and binge all Stranger Things, you know, then you get 3 things, actually 4 things in that week if you're a John Wick fan.
Never really been a fan of either one of them. I mean, never really given either one of them a chance, though, to be honest with you. So no, not next Friday. The Friday after that.
Hold on.
Yeah, we really don't have a whole lot next week. Friday after that, on the 27th, you get 2 episodes of Obi-Wan. You get John Wick and Top Gun in theaters, and then you get Stranger Things, the first part of the final season.
So it's going to be a lot down the chute. We're gonna have a little lull, and then it'll be heavy again. So
yeah,
I'm down. More stuff to watch. But well, all right. Well, let's get out of here. We already mentioned where you can find us at, and if you're hanging around or listening to this part of the show, you already know where you can find us at. You are a dedicated fan, and I appreciate you staying to the end. But give us a like, give us a review, share it with a friend, hit us up, and give us something to watch, or give us comments on what you want to do. Join us live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fridays, most of the time, sometimes Saturdays, and if necessary, a Sunday. But we are out here. That's right. Yeah. Football season, it definitely won't be happening on Sunday.
Sorry.
But I'm already, obligated to another show on Sundays for that one. So got to do the post game shows. But either way, we are putting out a lot of stuff. We're on episode 136 right now. 137 comes next week. Keep rolling on. This was kind of our 4-year anniversary, but we're going to plan something a little better to celebrate down the road. Lots of changes coming. Maybe some new segments, new looks, new name. All kinds of new stuff. So it'll be fun. But I guess until next week, y'all keep pounding. Or later, skaters. Later, skaters.
You're fine with keep pounding.
Wrong podcast.